What's up, Starcraft fans? This video is brought to you by Endarthe, who is supporting the Pulse Cannon tier. Pulse Cannon tier supporters or higher are guaranteed one video redemption per month. This month, he requested that I review the Vorazun Wiki, and we have Sticksbender on the call with us today for that. Sticksbender, how are you?
I'm doing good.
All right.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Remember me?
It's actually been a while since Sticksbender was able to do anything, and apparently he's only available when it's 1 a.m. for me, and I have work the next day. Hooray! So, let's try to go through this quickly. So what we will do is you guys can just pause the video when you want to read, but we'll just go straight through it.
All right. Vorazun is a playable commander in co-op missions. She has access to Dark Archons and cloaked units with high damage and time-stopping abilities. Her abilities overall focus on stealth and subterfuge, utilizing cloaked units and abilities to incapacitate enemies for a short time. As part of this, she is able to summon dark pylons that can cloak nearby allied units and structures, and has several upgrades to variably improve the combat proficiency of her cloaked units, or to allow her to warp in Dark Templar easier.
All right, guess we're reading
Now,
this.
that focus on Dark Templar is definitely accurate.
That's true. I cannot imagine playing Vorazun for most missions without actually using Dark Templar or Shadow Guard even. But that's accurate. That's just basic overview. Let's move on.
Yep. All right. So Vorazun, I don't know if any of you knew this, but Vorazun is a Protoss. She
Really?
is affiliated with Fidelum, and she is an Erasime. This is Protoss Lore 101. There will be a quiz. And her role is a stealth subterfuge specialist, as we already discovered from the previous description. For strength, she has late game dominance, crowd control specialist, high burst damage, Dark Templars that are powerful first ground, specifically ground, and powerful cooldowns. For weakness, her early game relies on cooldowns, although I'm not sure I would call that a weakness. It is hard to rebuild her army. Well, is it? It's all warp gate units.
Some Stargate.
She has she lacks mineral dump. Well, yeah, I mean, cloaked photon cannons are great and all, but yeah, fair. Short-ranged units.
That's totally fair.
No.
That's totally fair.
No, Dark Templar have more range than siege tanks. And situational anti-air. Yes, how can shoot up? We have successfully found one weakness, that's for certain. How can shoot up?
I thought another weakness for Vorazun was she has to tech so much to get her army up.
She does. So that's what I think they were getting at with her early game relies on cooldowns. You don't really have units until you have a Dark Shrine. You can make Stalkers, and like Stalkers are okay anti-air, especially against like armored air units. Your Corsairs are going to do no damage anyways, so you'll probably want Stalkers. But still, you don't really want to be doing any fighting with your army until you have Dark Templar, which means you're going to rely on the Shadow Guard to carry the entire early game. However, by the time you run out of Shadow Guard, either you have Mastery to make it last 2 minutes, or if you have the Prestige that makes your time stop revive Dark Templar, you can use Dark Templar, wait till the timeout, and then use the time stop to potentially get even more than 2 minutes, or just get 2 minutes, but you had a time stop in there. And by the time you get through that, we're at 5 minutes into the mission. You can have Dark Templar by then. So it's not too bad. It's just a matter of you have to make sure you actually do your rush to Dark Templar correctly. You have to actually rush Dark Templar. Otherwise, the game will come back and say, haha, you have no units, suffer. And then you feel embarrassed because you had to rely on your ally to help you out because you had no units.
Asterisk,
which I've never done ever before, trust me. Anyways, yeah, basically, it is true. High burst damage, very strong Dark Templar against ground. How can shoot up? For mineral dump, she only really has photon cannons, which are fine, but they're not, amazing. And the short-ranged units thing, use Shadow Fury manually. You can cast it where the target is on the edge of the AoE of Shadow Fury in order to allow Dark Templars to literally outrange siege tanks. They are one of the longest range units in all of co-op if you are using Shadow Fury. Just use the Shadow Fury.
Longest range is in all of co-op. All right. Let's move on.
They're not the longest range, but they're one of the longest range. All right. Info recommended for experienced players. Manipulate the battlefield from the Spear of Doom with stealthy abilities and command an army of cloaked and high damage Nerazim units. For anyone who doesn't know, this is the official description put in by Blizzard in the game. which I love how they have recommended for experienced players on pretty much every commander except the 3 first commanders, and of all commanders, Abathur, which just is so funny because it's so wrong.
That's pretty
Anyways,
much the case.
For Mastery, we have Power Set 1, Dark Pylon Range, and Black Hole Duration. They're actually both really good. Dark Pylon Range allows you to create invisible walls, which are actually really good, especially if you start to learn where what waves have detection, what maps have lack of detection. You could start to abuse invisible walls to kind of just laugh at Ablon as he's nuzzling a wall and wondering, why can't we walk here? He's only visible.
I like
However,
I like big cloaky circles. Yeah.
Yeah, big cloaky circles are fun. However, interestingly, Black Hole Duration probably the easier one to use because instead of having to like figure out where cloak is that useful and where it's less useful, although cloak is always useful because it gives you a damage augment as Vorazun, Black Hole Duration is just general purpose good. Stun is good. Hard CC is very strong, especially when it works on heroic units. So it works on hybrid and all that, works on map objectives if they're units. It's good stuff. Good stuff. Shadow Guard duration versus time stop unit speed increase. As we mentioned before, you're going to be using Shadow Guard as your entire early game defense because you just need to get a Dark Shrine. So you're going to want at least some Shadow Guard duration. However, you can also use some time stop increase because if you're using P3, then you only need 40 seconds in Shadow Guard duration for it to come out to, after the penalty to their duration for the prestige, to come out to 60 seconds duration, which means you call them down at 3 minutes, and then they time out at 4 minutes, so you can immediately time stop to get them back.
It's pretty cool,
Otherwise,
actually.
you have to wait before time stopping. So that's why I usually put 40 seconds into duration, and then I get 10% increased speed during time stop, which is great. We get to do more during time stop. Yippee!
That's pretty cool.
All right. Power Set 3, Chrono Boost Efficiency, and Starting Energy. Yeah, in general, with Vorazun, you're going to want Starting Energy because, again, you have that early game where you're going to want to be, if you are using Shadow Guards off cooldown, part of it is also if you're using Shadow Guard off cooldown, that will actually match your energy generation rate, which means the starting energy you have for a Dark Pylon, you want a Dark Pylon at the beginning because, in co-op, because we have a better chrono boost than we had in 1v1 at the time of when we had the ongoing chrono boost that is used in co-op, you actually will get supply blocked. You will get supply blocked for a short moment if you do a standard like build opener. You need to have some kind of instant pylon or something in order to not get supply blocked. So with Vorazun, guess what? Dark Pylon, you can get an instant pylon, and then the minerals you would have spent on a pylon, you could spend that on getting your gases sooner.
Yes.
Although, admittedly, if Vorazun, oftentimes I don't even use I don't even need the instant pylon for not getting supply blocked because I often will actually go probe gas. Oh, maybe I should actually get a second probe because gas is just that important for Vorazun.
Gas is very important.
Anyways, but yeah, chrono boost efficiency, it's not something Vorazun has a huge amount of use for. You can grab it. The biggest thing it's going to do for you is it's going to let you get your Shadow Fury slightly faster for your Dark Templar, but that's not really an issue. You'll usually get it on time anyways. Usually the time before you have Shadow Fury is also the time before Amon has invented detection, so your Dark Templar can just attack, move, and kill everything because they can't see. The biggest thing Chrono Boost really helps with is getting out your air units and air upgrades. Getting out air upgrades for Corsairs is very important to the Cybernetics Core. Yeah, Spear of Reduced Starting Energy is generally the way to go.
Yes.
All right. Hey, look, the prestiges that I was just talking about.
Hey.
All right. We've got, I like how it's level 1, level 2, and level 3.
Yeah.
Yes. You do have to unlock them in order, technically, so fair enough. All right. Spirit of Respite. Advantage, Emergency Recall. Emergency Recall recalls cloaked units to the nearest... yes. Recall. Yes, the most...
Recall works.
Clean wording. Emergency Recall recalls cloaked units to the closest Nexus or Dark Pylon instead of the closest primary structure, and heals life and shields to full. Yeah, I believe it. I don't actually know if it moves your ally units to recall to Dark Pylons or if they still go to primary structure. But anyways, full deploy Dark Pylon cooldown and energy cost reduced by 50%. However, Dark Pylons lose manual recall.
Rip.
Yeah, this is really good for leveling because Dark Pylon recall is something you only get at higher levels. So if you're leveling through the prestiges, Spirit of Respite is really useful. It also helps to offset the fact that you don't have Spirit of Doom starting energy by making your initial Dark Pylon cheaper
Oh,
in terms of the energy cost,
I
which is
didn't
nice.
think that. That's very cool.
Yeah, so it's very helpful for leveling. It's also just like, if your units recall to the nearest Dark Pylon instead of recalling to, all the way back to your Nexus, that is both a blessing and a curse depending on the situation. It can be useful because it means that your units get to stay there and they just get to be like pulled into the back of the area, but they get to keep fighting in a sense.
Kinda.
But in a sense, they're still at one hit point. So it also is kind of beneficial for them to go all the way back to the base. They get time to get their shields back and for the current fight to end. So, not that it takes that long for shields to come back on Vorazun if you have the levels, because you have increased shield regeneration on cloaked units,
Yeah.
which is great. It's one of her biggest power spikes when leveling her, honestly, in my opinion. It's a really, really big level up when your cloaked units start getting hyper shield regen. It's a big deal.
Don't know about you, but I prefer the level 10 upgrade. It's pretty good.
Time stop is good. Anyways, in general, yeah, losing recall is a big deal, but also a lot of you don't use it. You can't lie to me. A lot of you don't use it, and you should be using it. But if you aren't using it, you could go Spirit of Respite. It is an option. Anyways, Withering Siphon, advantages: Void Stasis, Confusion, Stasis Ward, Disruption Web, and Dark Coil may affect heroic units and cause them enemies to lose 20 life per second. This effect cannot kill. However, unless they fix that bug, this effect can allow you to damage the shields on enemy units who are the wrong polarity if you're against polarity.
It's pretty cool.
Which is really weird, but I mean, hey, it means you can damage enemy units at the wrong polarity.
Yeah.
The disadvantage: combat units deal 25% reduced damage. I'm pretty sure probes also do. I'm pretty sure it's actually everything deals 25% reduced damage. And Stasis Ward duration reduced by 75%. So ironically, this takes your Stasis Ward, which already could affect heroic units, and says, good, it can now affect heroic units, but it's a quarter as long, but it already could affect heroic units. So it's now just kind of bad. But that's okay, because now your Zealots and Dark Archons can crowd control heroic units, which makes this a pretty okay prestige for, like, situationally just messing up heroic units. Heroes from the Storm Mutator, it's great for that. And, as I mentioned polarity before, it's great against polarity because it means that you can just, basically the whole idea of this prestige is you don't deal as much damage, but you could just completely lock down enemies with just sheer crowd control. And being able to do that against polarity, you can always stun enemies of the wrong polarity. You just can't damage them. So
That's
dealing
true.
reduced damage to them, who cares? You already dealt 0 damage to them. However, being able to stun them better, that we care about. So this is actually pretty good if you're looking to carry people in a polarity mutation. This is one of the best ways to possibly carry someone, is P2 Vorazun. You can crowd control things into oblivion. You can abduct your allies' army with Dark Pylon Recall, which, by the way, is a 1-minute cooldown per Dark Pylon, and it starts off cooldown when you summon the Dark Pylon.
Yeah.
Like, I would say P2 Vorazun is probably the best polarity carrying in the game. So
asterisk, you have to be really good at Vorazun if you want to do carrying with polarity. Just, disclaimer.
To be fair, it's also a weird form of Vorazun, because normally you're massing Dark Templar, and here you're making Zealot Archon. So there's that.
Yes.
And Corsairs. Corsairs are very good. All right. Level 3, Keeper of Shadows. It's the highest level for a reason. It's good for everything. Time Stop becomes targeted. Do not be fooled. Many people are. This does not mean that Time Stop is now a local, like, everything in this area is Time Stop, but the rest of the map isn't.
Imagine someone getting fooled by that
global
description. Can you imagine if someone who got fooled by the description made a guide on prestigious and said that it is now local? How embarrassing would that be?
Anyways, yes, do not be fooled. Time Stop does not become local with this. Time Stop is still global. The only targeting is you choose where the Dark Templar gets summoned.
That's true.
Because all Shadow Guard who have died are resurrected at the target location. Let me tell you, if you are calling down Shadow Guards like on cooldown for the first, like for the early game, and then a little ways into the mid game, by the time you're getting to the later map objectives, you can literally just pop time stop and let the Shadow Guard kill the main objective.
Oh yeah.
You don't have to worry about the base. You don't have to worry about having units. You don't have to worry about mutators that will blow up your units like Black Death or something. You don't have to worry about any of that. The Shadow Guard will just win the game for you.
You can basically
ridiculous.
You can basically pretend you're Aragorn freeing South Gondor from the Corsairs of Umbar. That's how powerful it feels. You can just summon the army of the dead. They will go away after some time, but they'll do the job just fine. One more thing. The summoning range of Dark Templar is usually not a problem. In 99.9% of the games, it is not a problem. However, if you are the kind of player who will play 9-hour games just to try stuff out, at some point, you'll see that the summon range of Dark Templar or the Shadow Guard is around 6 range or 6 or 7 range, which means if you have more Shadow Guard that can fit in that range, you'll have to move them away. Otherwise, they won't all spawn. So as they spawn, you have to move them away or send them to attack somewhere, so that the rest of the Shadow Guard can spawn in from where you will want to spawn. Again, in 99% of the games, it doesn't matter, but if you're that 1% or that 0.01%, then this is for you. Alright, continue.
They also note, they don't all spawn instantly all at once. They spawn like they are being unloaded from an invisible warp prism.
Kind of like that.
So, that's why you're able to move them away instead of it just being like instantly all of them spawn.
They're being unloaded from a Spear of a Dude, basically. But yes.
Yes.
That's the lore. There we go. Subsorin approved. Unless he's actually here and he disapproves. But anyway, he's not here, so let's just pretend that he did approve. Let's move on.
Ooh, strategies. Now we get to the real subjective stuff.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Vorazun is widely considered to be the most powerful of the original 6 commanders, with an array of useful talents to boost her offensive potential, powerful units, and versatile call-down abilities. Even after patches have repeatedly nerfed her. That was a long time ago, though, to be fair.
This is true.
They nerfed Artanis back then, too.
Oh, yeah.
Vorazun remains very capable as a commander. Her Dark Templars can vaporize entire waves with a single casting of Shadow Fury. Exactly! At long range. They're long-range units! Even the toughest ones. Dark Archon is great for redirecting enemy fire, regardless of numbers. Mass Void Ray. Yes! Mass Void Ray allows Vorazun to solo most offensive maps at any level. Well, yeah, most anything can solo at brutal difficulty on any map. If you try hard enough. Cloaked Corsairs makes a very fun, entirely invisible and invincible army when coupled with Dark Templar at level 13. Also, we're back to the Void Rays. Great focus here. Also, the Void Rays can attack while moving, provided they're facing directly towards the enemy. That's just a feature of Void Rays in general, by the way. If you right-click on an enemy, and the enemy tries to run away from you, and you're chasing them while facing towards them, as long as they don't leave a certain range of the Void Ray will just keep firing while gliding after them.
Fun fact,
which
lasers.
That's just a feature of the Void Ray. Because, yes, the Void Ray just has this weird janky interaction that just is a thing that exists for Void Rays specifically in every game mode where Void Rays exist, which is funny. Anyways, oh boy, Mass Void Rays. Mass Void Rays are, you can certainly make them work if you try hard enough. They're not the greatest unit. There's very rarely a situation where Void Rays are a better option than
if you're really bored,
things.
If you're really bored of Dark Templar and Corsair, you can go Void Rays.
You can go Void Rays, or you could go Stalkers, which ironically I might consider Mass Stalker to be better in some situations. Depends on your Blink micro.
If you are Alpha Star,
if you want to learn Blink, if you feel like you want to learn Blink micro because you were already bored of Dark Templar, honestly, Blink Stalkers might actually be better than Void Rays more often than not, which is funny.
In which case, just play Zeratul.
You could just play Zeratul for that. That's true. And then Oracle Corsair is another composition that you can learn, which is really just actually good. Actually, it's quite good. Being able to have a giant fleet of invisible air units that can have insane amounts of crowd control against ground units is really good. And also, you have tons of AoE against air units. The only unfortunate catch is that, once again, we don't have crowd control against air units. We don't have burst damage against air units. All we have is we have to black hole the air units and hope they all die during the black hole.
Yes.
Good thing black hole reduces armor to 0, so Corsairs do way more damage. That's at least nice.
All right.
Yeah.
Moving on.
All right. Whoa, we're looking at mastery strategies. Oh, we already went over this. Dark pylon range and black hole duration. Yes. Dark pylon range. You can cover an entire expansion. And helps offset Vorazun's primary weakness of enemies destroying the dark pylon. I'm not sure that this is a primary weakness of the entire commander, but sure.
It counts technically.
Technically, yes. I mean, there are things you can do with a long-range dark pylon, like just cloaking an entire battlefield, because that way your entire army deals 15% more damage. It's nice. It's good. Yeah.
Also, your allies' army. It works too.
Also, your allies' army. They also, your ally and you both get 15% increased attack damage while cloaked. It's nice. It's
Very
good
nice.
stuff. Of course, your army is already going to be cloaked anyways half the time because it's Dark Templar. But still.
So just your ally and your Void Race.
It is best used in combination with a non-cloaked army or with defenses, such as with Mass Void Race. We love those Void Race. Or for cloaking the structures of a defensive ally. Or your own photon cannons. People underestimate vanilla photon cannons a lot. Vanilla photon cannons are actually not that bad, and with Vorazun, you're not spending your minerals on anything else. Unless it's Zealots, but Zealots are not really good aside from P2.
Wow.
Alright. They can also be used in certain mutations to cloak the entire base and surrounding dark pylon fully with cannons, leaving melee enemies unable to reach the dark pylon. Yes, they get obliterated by cannons. And then they send a Raven. But that's besides the point. Black hole duration can be very useful in the early game, or against tough mutators that buff enemy units. It's just good for everything. Crowd control is good. This just in, crowd control is good. The X duration is especially handy against hybrid nemesis that Corsairs otherwise have trouble dealing with. You should have enough Corsairs to kill a hybrid nemesis during the duration of the black hole. It has 0 armor during the black hole duration. However, yes, this is true. Like for air units especially, your black hole is a large part of what helps you deal with air units because it puts them all into a ball. Corsairs deal AoE damage. If you didn't know that, this is important information. Corsairs deal AoE damage, so black hole puts them all in a ball. It reduces their armor to 0, which is also good for Corsairs because they have fast, low damage attacks. So once you black hole them, a small fleet of Corsairs should be able to vaporize an entire army of air units before the black hole times out.
Yeah. They basically take all the damage as if every single Corsair was hitting every single one individually because they are all together. So the tiny splash, the normally tiny splash of the Corsair will hit everything because they're all clumped in a, black hole. Okay.
Yep.
Let's move on.
All right. Power set 2, time stop unit speed increase.
You can clearly see that this was written before Prestigious. They didn't,
What do you mean? No. Even before Prestigious, this would have been wrong. The choice is clear. Time stop unit speed increase benefits to all units every 4 minutes, providing a substantial DPS boost for most players' armies whenever time stop is used. It should be early and often. Full points into Shadow Guard duration effectively amounts to an extra 30 seconds. Oh, right. There was a time before they buffed Shadow Guard duration. That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. However, even then, no,
Before
30 seconds
Prestigious.
extra Shadow Guard duration is probably better still.
Before Prestigious, though, the Shadow Guards don't come back. So you gotta use
the whole reason
50
was
energy.
basically because before Prestiges, it basically comes down to what they said as the weakness of Vorazun having early game dependent on cooldowns. They were right. She is dependent on cooldowns. That extra 30 seconds of Shadow Guard was helpful for some maps to make sure that your Shadow Guard would be able to cover an extra wave or something, or clear out an extra base.
Yeah, an
And that was
objective.
very helpful because you don't have Dark Templar yet, so you want to have your Shadow Guard do as much as possible. But the extra 30 seconds is true. It's only on some maps where that extra 30 seconds is enough to actually make the critical threshold. Oftentimes it would time out before the next thing anyways, if it was only 30 seconds. When it became 60 seconds, because they buffed it,
Or
the choice kind of flipped immediately.
Yeah.
Like time stop unit speed increase kind of just lost a
Fell
ton of
off.
popularity as soon as they doubled. It lost a ton of popularity as soon as they doubled the duration increase for the mastery. So yeah, but this is very outdated now.
Yeah. This part at least very clearly needs an update with the third prestige, the Keeper of Shadows, especially highlighting this. Every time you use time stop, all the Shadow Guard come back. So the slight time increase or the slight speed increase with time stop doesn't really compare to much longer duration that your Shadow Guard. Just imagine you're Aragorn with the army of the dead in Return of the King. Do you want the army of the dead to whack enemies slightly faster, or do you want them around for longer? It's pretty clear. You want the army of the dead around for longer.
Although to be fair, having them slap faster is more useful if you're in the situation of doing the whole. All right, we're time stop. Get the objective before time stop ends. Please and thank you. Good stuff.
That's true. But
I will still continue to recommend 20 points into duration, 10 points into time stop speed increase.
All right.
That is the 1 minute Shadow Guard, so you get the nice lineup because it's a 3 minute cooldown on Shadow Guard cooldown. It's a 4 minute cooldown on time stop. You will end up with a 1 minute gap between those cooldowns happening on a regular basis. So that 1 minute gap lining up with the 1 minute duration Shadow Guards, very convenient.
Very convenient.
So 20 points, 10 points.
All right, let's move on. There we go. Power set 3.
All right. Chrono boost efficiency and initial access to renewed energy should be used by more experienced players only, as it necessitates efficient use of Vorazun's abilities during early game, as well as extra attention paid to tight macro play. What? Oh boy.
This is very clearly outdated. Yeah.
I don't even know which one it's talking about. If experienced players, it looks like it's talking about both of them.
No, it's talking about spirit and energy. Look, the way it's worded here is that it's as if if you are not someone who spams Vorazun's top bars, then it's probably not a good idea to put points into energy that you won't use either way. It doesn't assume that people should just use the top bars whenever it's a good time to use them.
Yes. I would note, if you don't spam it out, then if you aren't using your top bar enough, then it's still useful because it increases the maximum energy. So you can store up a bunch of energy, so when you inevitably realize too late that you should have been using top bar and start to panic spam spells, you can panic spam more spells and maybe be able to have a better chance of actually winning anyways. Come on.
Imagine just spamming black hole on like a single hybrid. Like it's already stuck in your black hole anyway because you have the extra energy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. If you want to chain black hole an enemy, and you don't really know the duration of black hole in your head, you might catch the next one early. But still, with full energy and increased max energy, do you know how long you can black hole a single enemy?
Or alternatively,
you can just hold them there for minutes.
Really? Wait, is that true? 25
if
energy.
If you have full energy, it's 25 energy per.
So that's
you can have. You can have 11 black holes worth of energy stored up. Plus, as you're having those black holes going, you're still generating energy. So you can get 12, 13 black holes chained together. If you have black hole duration increase.
So actual minutes.
Actual minutes. If it's Temple of the Past or Missed Opportunities or something, and you're having to defend an objective from the final wave until the timer ticks down, you could literally just, go pacifist with that final wave. Just put it in a black hole and keep it there until you get the victory screen.
Permanently. Or just put it in the black hole into your Artanis or your Carax ally, spear reduce everything into oblivion.
Yeah. Artanis, Carax, Mangsk.
Yeah.
On order. Anyone with nuke from the sky.
Tychus. Anyway.
Rainer, you jump in the Hyperion, you Yamato once, and look, genocide.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, that's about it. Shall we move on?
I suppose so. Yeah, use Spear of Renewed Energy.
It's better. All right, prestige strategies.
Prestige strategies. All right. Spirit of Respite allows Vorazun to be more liberal with her Dark Pylons, as they are particularly useful when making pushes. The Dark Pylon can be dropped to the player's armies in the heat of battle, and the player's units and allies units are slain in the raids. They will respawn the Dark Pylon and re-engage immediately. The respawning of the Dark Pylon and re-engaging immediately is actually arguably worse, again, because they're still at 1 hit point. It would be nice for them to get a chance to, like, if they have any form of regeneration, like shield regeneration, to actually regenerate that all back up before they re-engage.
Well, this was talking about Spirit of Respite, though, so they will be at full health.
Oh, right. I completely forgot the Spirit of Respite also heals them, because that wasn't listed in the actual description.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true. Never mind. Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah, Spirit of Respite is actually pretty decent. Honestly, the only reason that it actually like ends up being neglected is because, one, if you really know what you're doing, Dark Pylon Recall becomes like indispensable, and two, that P3 is just completely overtuned, so everything else kind of gets overshadowed.
That's why in tier lists we often say that Vorazun is 1 prestige, but that's not for this part yet. Continue.
Yeah, like Spirit of Respite is probably better. Is better, generally better than default Vorazun. It's just like almost never better than P3 Vorazun.
That's the thing.
Oh wait, I thought this was going to be like all 3 prestiges.
No, it's just one of them.
3 different. I saw 3 paragraphs. I assumed 3 prestiges. No, it's the same one. This makes the prestige useful in missions where prolonged frontline aggression is necessary and combos very well with Vorazun's first mastery, allowing Dark Pylons to cloak large number of units. That's true. A drawback is that the loss of recall heavily hampers Vorazun's ability to defend herself. Defend herself? I guess. But
yeah, when you're based under attack, you don't have Dark Pylon recall.
To just summon at your base. Yeah, that's true.
Also, if only Vorazun had the ability to summon new units from her gateways. If only she had a way to do that.
To be fair, a 1 warp in of Dark Templar is probably going to have a little bit of a hard time fighting an attack wave. But if it's just like Void Rift Trickle or something, yeah, 1 warp in a Dark Templar, you probably got that covered. Let's see. The other thing is that you're losing a defensive, like an army protecting spell, because like being able to Dark Pylon Recall has almost instantaneous cast time. So if your army ever gets into a fight that you don't want to be in, with like, you know, if you're getting caught by concussive attacks or fatal attraction, or if you just, you know, your army happens, you look back at your army and it's standing in the middle of a nuke from going nuclear or something, or you're stuck like hugging a hybrid and you realize mutually assured destruction is there and you don't want to be anywhere near that hybrid, you can almost instantly just disappear and be at home. The one catch is that any Dark Templar actively in Shadow Fury won't be grabbed.
But they're also invincible. Well, in Shadow Fury,
yes,
so
they're invincible. They're invincible and untargetable, even to your own allied effects, which is unfortunate. But which is another reason why it's good to manually cast Shadow Fury, because it synchronizes their Shadow Fury, so you can actually recall everyone if you need to. However, point is, just being able to yank your whole army out of there, like at the drop of a pin, is really good.
Yeah,
it's really good. Which is why you should have a Dark Pylon in your base, hotkeyed at all times, ideally.
Except when you're using this prestige that we're supposed to be talking about.
Yeah, at which point it's no longer that useful. Allowing Dark Pylons to cloak large reviews, yes. And she cannot respond to enemies' attacks if her army is out of position. Yes, unfortunate. She must rely on calldowns or an ally for prompt defense while she brings her forces in. Yeah, calldowns. Black hole. Just hold them there. Put them in jail.
Put them in jail.
And ground armies in particular will be slow to move. You have Blink. Dark Archons are slow, but Dark Templar and Stalkers are quite fast.
They're pretty fast.
An additional advantage is that Vorazun can drop a Dark Pylon in the middle and early in the mission to provide additional supply, which she already could do, but now it costs less energy. And let her build her gateway a bit earlier. Hooray! She'll still have energy to summon the Shadow Guard shortly after they come off cooldown. Yeah, that's assuming you don't have energy mastery, which, yeah. But yeah, that's the whole thing, like I was saying, right? If you're still leveling and you don't have mastery yet, it's good prestige for leveling. It's very good prestige for leveling.
Yeah.
All right. Weathery Siphon can be helpful on maps where the player expects to encounter large numbers of enemy heroic units, like most likely hybrids, with the capacity to stun and quickly drain their HP. Quickly. Vorazun could potentially crush even the largest waves. However, This prestige considerably dampens her early game potential since she will not have many combat units, and they will not have their upgrades yet, and their damage output is reduced. The Twilight Council upgrades are not that hard to get. Just upgrade your zealots, man. You're going to be using zealots with this prestige. This is the zealot prestige, by the way. Do not be fooled. This is the zealot prestige. Which also, ironically, remember that whole thing of Vorazun being gas starved and not having a good use for her minerals? Not anymore. There's a zealot prestige. Vorazun is much more of a late game commander of this prestige. No, I would not agree with that. She scales better with both of the other ones. Dark Templar scale better, than everything. Dark Templar with full damage scale really well, and P3 is insanely good scaling, as we mentioned, right in the late game. By the late game, you can just literally let your Shadow Guard from
do the whole mission.
Just do the whole rest of the mission. You don't even need your army at that point. It's crazy. It's crazy. So yeah, very, very strong.
Very strong.
Well, okay. Now you need your army to defend attack waves, but the Shadow Guard can finish off the objectives. So Vorazun scaling is insane. So with P2, you've actually hampered that insane scaling, but you still have good scaling. Vorazun has good scaling. As it will take time for her to upgrade her army and mass them in enough numbers that they can be effective. Nah, just make a bunch of zealots and then eventually get Dark Archons and or Corsairs.
For anti-air.
Yeah, for anti-air and also for more crowd control. Yippee! This prestige benefits from a more varied army composition to give Vorazun more abilities to exploit and the benefits of Withering Siphon and demands more micro-intensive gameplay. Honestly, less micro-intensive than Dark Templar, probably. You just spam confusion on the enemy army, you're good. Instead of having to actually worry about kiting with Shadow Fury, you just A-move and click confusion.
Of course, this assumes that you use Shadow Fury manually on your Dark Templar, which is recommended here, but
it's strongly recommended.
We all know that.
If you don't, you can just A-move Dark Templar, which is they still work.
They still work.
But in reality, like if you're just wanting to A-move, you can also just A-move Zealot Corsair with P2.
That works.
It works great. It's fine. You don't need Dark Archons, just like you don't need to use Shadow Fury manually. But both come highly recommended. P2 Dark Archons and manual casting Shadow Fury both come highly recommended. Anyways.
Not for the real one.
Cool. Keeper of Shadows. It turns Tie-Stop into a nuke-like ability. That's one way of putting it. Able to spawn massive numbers of Shadow Guard the later the game goes on, and they will swiftly crush enemies. Oh yeah.
Army of the Dead.
Reduced duration of Shadow Guard can be a complication depending on the map. They will certainly still last long enough to clear expansion of rocks and defeat an early attack wave and secure the first objective point, but they may not last long enough to do more than one of these things, which is why you use Tie-Stop to get a second set.
What about second Shadow Guard?
Yes, but what about second Shadow Guard? All right, Vorazun's Shadow Guard Duration Mastery has increased strategic usage and is worth consideration to offset the drawback of Keeper of Shadows, though this in turn must be weighed against the value of time stop speed increase. Whoever wrote this wiki really liked time stop speed increase.
Well, or it was written before, prestiges were more understood. It was probably written around the month.
I'm not sure. For some reason, I thought the buff to time stop or to the Shadow Guard Duration Mastery came long before Prestige patch, which means they should already have known that like it was before the Prestige, if I remember correctly, it was before the Prestige patch when the duration was buffed and it became standard to switch to duration because it was better, and then Prestige came along after it had already been, the new consensus was forget the speed increase. So this guy just liked speed increase, man.
To be fair to him, I did use speed increase until the Prestige patch.
That's fair.
On the Prestige patch, that's when the duration really just became just so much better than time stop speed increase.
Yeah. Another drawback is the Prestige that incentivizes Vorazun to use her Shadow Guard more often, giving her less energy for Dark Pilots and Black Hole. Yes, this is actually the big real disadvantage of this Prestige, is you have fewer Black Holes, and Black Holes are really good.
They're pretty massive.
Are really good.
They're very massive objects. High density.
Yes, true. Very true. However, You don't need that many Shadow Guards. Once you get to like having like 16 Shadow Guards on your time stop, 20 Shadow Guards on your time stop, it becomes much more optional to make any more than that. The change in time stops mechanic to make it a target ability is a minor point that simply makes it slightly slower to activate than just clicking the top bar. Yes, technically you now have to actually target someone on the map instead of just click the button. There is a hotkey for each top bar though, so hotkeys, they make things faster.
I guess to counteract that, just kind of being playing devil's. I know it's technically correct, but another technically counterpoint, or another technically correct counterpoint, is that you're not really targeting the time stop itself. You're targeting the Shadow Guard over the spawn. The time stop just needs you to. Yeah, that's true.
But the point is, the time stop doesn't trigger until you make a second mouse click instead of only the first one, or until you make a keystroke and a mouse click instead of just a keystroke. So technically, there's the slight human delay.
Yeah, that's true. The slight human delay, unless you're probably like Rainer or someone like that. Let's move on.
Must have energy.
That's very fitting, to be honest. I like the caption.
Vorazun is very Vespene dependent. Yup. Except P2, it's zealot spam. So build assimilators as resources permit. Forget as resources permit. Cut probes. Probe, gas, probe. Like, literally. Cut the probes to get more gas.
Gas.
I mean, you have auto gas. Like, if you are level 1 Vorazun and you don't have auto gas, then that doesn't apply. You still want probes because you need probes to actually mine the gas. But if you are not level 1 Vorazun, in a sense, you can think of each gas as coming with 3 probes for free. So it's not that bad to cut probes for gas. You already are like starting to get diminishing probes on return on mineral probes from your 3rd produced probe onward, because there's only 7 mineral patches in co-op for some reason, but you still start with the same number of probes. So once you've made your 3rd probe of the game, you're already getting diminishing returns on each probe in your main base.
By the way,
it's ridiculous.
If you are level 1 on Vorazun, hey, welcome to Starcraft 2 Co-op. It's a very fun game. We hope you stick around for very long, and you are coming at the right time, because now the mutations are restarting, so you have plenty to see during your time here. We hope you enjoy your stay. Let's move on.
Hooray. That, or you are getting prestiging.
I mean...
In which case, good luck with the slow grind.
Why would you not use the prestige trick? But anyway, that's for another video.
Yeah, fair. Oh, boy. All right. Teching up to Dark Templar and researching the Shadow Fury should be the highest priority. Correct. As even a few upgraded Dark Templar can rapidly crush the first few attack waves and even the first primary objective. Yep.
Yes.
Yep. And just make more Dark Templar. Just keep making Dark Templar.
All correct.
If you have an ally you can count on, you might even just say, you know what? I don't need to shoot up. You shoot up. I'm making Dark Templar and nothing else.
It's true.
You know, I've done that to you. I've told you, like, you're killing all the air units. I'm not bothering. I don't care about shooting up. Shooting up is too hard.
It may have been a while back, but sure. Let's call it something that we did. All right.
It is something we've done in mutation videos. Anyways, a large army of Dark Templar or Shadow Fury will simply delete anything you encounter on the ground, be they units or buildings. So your only remaining concern will be detection and anti-air, which Vorazun sucks at both. The Dark Pylon cooldown combined with transformed gateways can be used for frontline reinforcements. Yep, yes. Allowing you to put unending pressure on the enemy bases for attack maps, or as a quick defense. Before they become available, however, Vorazun's Shadow Guard cooldown can be used to defend the first wave, and can be used afterward to clear out the rock for expansion, and given control and timing is perfect, even an ally's expansion. Yeah, the timing is kind of tight if you want to do that without duration increase. However, again, use the duration increase.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Oh, by the way, if you're playing Rift Core Hall, the first wave will hit before Shadow Guard becomes available, so you will want to wall up.
Sort of. It will arrive at like it depends on the enemy composition, because technically the time it spawns is fixed. The time it arrives at your base is based on the move speed of the unit. If they are vultures,
they will arrive very
have
fast.
A bad time.
If they're Reapers,
they're very fast.
You also have a very bad time.
They're a little slower, so you're closer, but yeah, they like arrive at like 2 minutes and 56 seconds or something, so it's like 4 seconds before the Dark Templar can come down. But if they're like
Hellions.
Marines or something, you're fine.
Yeah, you're fine. If you're Marines, you're fine. Hellions, also, you'll need a wall.
Hellions are
Otherwise, they
faster, but
will.
they're not too bad because Hellions don't.
I mean,
Hellions aren't as scary.
the point is, make a wall so that they don't roast your
Make a
workers.
wall. Just
Anyway.
just make a building. Make
That-
a cybernetics core.
That's just unrest the coral. Anyway, let's move on.
All right. From the shadows.
Very fitting name.
These are all voice lines, by the way, of units.
Yes.
Vorazun's gameplay is about subversion and subterfuge. I like how we're just like here, like I wanted to throw a thesaurus at the wiki, so we did.
That's not even what her gameplay. That's Nova P3's gameplay. That's
I
not,
mean, Vorazun does use invisible walls and heavy crowd.
I guess
control,
in that.
so like
I
there
guess in
is
that
that.
aspect. Yeah, in that aspect, yeah.
Cloaked walls. Cloaked walls are funny. Dark Templar are her primary units and are much more effective than in melee gameplay due to their higher shields and lower Vespene cost. And in melee gameplay, I believe it's talking about 1v1. Yes, they have twice as many shields and they cost less gas. And more importantly, they have Shadow Fury, so they actually are a ranged unit now. They're a ranged spellcaster who happens to have a melee auto attack. Upgraded in mass numbers, the forts of Dark Templar can rip apart virtually any ground-based units. However, Vorazun's other options should not be neglected. And properly used, she has one of the most effective armies. Vorazun has Shadow Guards, which should be used exactly once at the beginning of the game to clear your rocks and solo the first wave.
See,
Yeah,
definitely written for prestige patch.
The reality is sometimes you'd want to use Shadow Guard again anyways, to be honest, but yeah. In general, yeah, you didn't actually want to use Shadow Guard that many times before prestige patch. The easy way to use it is to cast it next to your rocks. It's natural. As soon as the red dot appears on the minimap, clear the rocks, and then go clear the wave using Blink as much as possible. Then clear Allies expansion rocks if possible. Hooray! I will also note, by the way, it's kind of funny. They're talking about how, like, yes, you can actually use them to rip large number of the Dark Templar to rip apart ground armies, unlike in PvP. Have you seen what's been happening in PvP?
Well, from the many games I've watched, Protoss usually gets destroyed by everyone, but you know.
Yes, it's not a standard thing, but there is definitely there's Dark Templar jump scares are bound to happen sooner or later in every tournament. It seems once or twice, just someone just blinks 15 Dark Templars on top of an unsuspecting army, and it's gone. It's just gone.
I'm actually not sure. I did see that before.
The more popular one is to blink it on top of a planetary fortress and just one-shot the planetary fortress. And the whole idea there is basically to win PvT by bleeding out the Terran by saying, I will just kill your command centers. I don't have to trade. I won't be trading cost efficiently. I won't be harassing your workers. But if you can't keep a command center alive for more than 15 seconds, eventually you will run out of money. That's the whole strategy, which is really funny to me that this became standard. I am traditional and I do what people did before back then, which is saying I'll make Tempests and we like Tempests. But that's what people have switched to, is using Dark Templar to snipe command centers.
That was about carriers rather than Tempests.
Against Terran, it's always been Tempests.
Tempests
are really good. At least at higher levels. It's Tempests. The Tempest is the way.
All right, let's go with that. Let's move on.
Moving along.
Hey.
We are as one.
Another
support
voice
from
line.
Corsairs for anti-air. I like how we're using Dark Archon voice lines and then immediately forgetting the Dark Archon exists in all of these, strategy recommendations.
Until now!
Yippee! Support for Corsairs from anti-air will form a powerful attack force. Early on, Stalkers make useful anti-air counters, not to mention general-purpose attack units. Oracles are necessary and primarily used for detection. And stuns. Stasis wards are useful to guard choke points and prepare ambushes for enemies. Stasis wards are useful to spam in massive quantities, especially since they buffed Vorazun so that cloaked units now get increased energy generation, and they buffed her so that her cloaking upgrade at the fleet beacon affects oracles as well as corsairs instead of just corsairs. It used to be just corsairs. So now her oracles get to be invisible and have bonus energy generation, and you could just blanket the map in stasis wards.
Yeah, and actually even
stasis wards are good.
It actually even feeds killbots if you can place them with the oracle being far enough away that the killbot doesn't just retarget to the oracle and just trigger every stasis ward that you painstakingly put on there.
Yes, because it'll just, if it aggroes on the oracle, it'll chase the oracle, walking through the stasis traps, which will cause them to detonate, which is not a kill for the killbot.
Yes.
Which is unfortunate. Yes. Her centurions make useful mineral dumps. Do they, though? If you don't get the upgrades for them, they're not that useful. And if you do get the upgrades for them, the upgrades cost gas. And also, they're just stunning ground units that, like, you could stun them with centurions. Or, get this, you could one-shot them with a single cast of Shadow Fury.
They're just stunning
I'm
ground
just
units.
saying.
Very stunning indeed.
Yeah. That you could stun them, or they could be dead. So, like, honestly, the Centurion isn't even that bad of a unit. It's just so obsoleted by how good the Dark Templar is at killing ground units. It's just like, if the Centurion could stun air units, it would have a purpose in life. But it can't, so it's redundant.
The Centurions would be great units in 1v1. Like, OP in 1v1. Unfortunately, we're playing co-op.
Centurions would be great units on other commanders, arguably. Like, there's like other Protoss commanders who would be happy to take Centurions. Like, Karax would probably be happy to take Centurions.
Zagara might be happy with taking Centurions.
Zagara would be happy to take Centurions. Yeah. Alright, Dark Archons are effective support attackers. I guess, yeah. Especially when faced with concentrated high-tier air units. Yes, that's true. Well, concentrated high-tier units is you don't want you want sparse high-tier units so you can mind control the few high-tier units and not have to worry about them. Not a ton of high-tier units, so it's like, oh my gosh, I can't mind control all of these. Also, it's specifically high-tier air units you want them for. The ground units die to Dark Templars anyway, so who cares? No, it's the battle cruisers and the carriers and the tempests that otherwise would be giving your corsairs a hard time. But if there's only a few of them, you could just mind control them, and that's your anti-air.
Yeah, absolutely.
You just mind control the big air units, and then the big air units you mind control can kill the small air units you didn't mind control. Good news, everyone. We solved the anti-air problem. Anyways, more Dark Templar. Because her Strike from the Shadows passive provide increased energy and shield regeneration. Oh, we updated it with the increased energy regeneration. I see how it is. Her Dark Archons greatly benefit from having a Dark Pylon nearby, and emergency recall will save them from death, preventing an expensive unit from being lost. Hooray! Mind control is more of a novelty when playing as Vorazun. Yeah, pretty much. It's there for, again, sparse, like, capital ships. Like, basically, for, like, dealing with the battle cruisers or, like, the pre-placed capital ships on, like, certain maps.
Metal Warfare.
Where you're against the ground comp, but there's pre-placed capital ships that you need to get rid of because you need to clear out that base. And the reality is, oftentimes, you don't even need to clear those out. You just kill the objective and leave. It's only ones like, Chain of Ascension where, yeah, you kind of have to get rid of those battle cruisers eventually, otherwise Janara ain't going anywhere.
Yeah.
Anyways, Terrans and Protoss give her plenty of high-priority targets for mind control, including battle cruisers, Thors, carriers, Tempests, and Colossi. Science vessels, medevacs, and medics are also valuable to give Vorazun healing. Hooray!
Hey.
And science vessels, ravens, observers give her detections to allow her to forego oracles. You can also take overseers. Zerg enemies do not have many units worth mind controlling, other than are literally, honestly, overseers.
I would mind control the Vipers. Vipers just to remove them from the field. Oh, and just spam the disabling cloud before they go bye-bye.
Yes, but here's the problem with the disabling cloud is you already had disruptive web.
I mean,
so there is that. But yeah, you can take Vipers. As their individual units are not very powerful and less massed, but aren't Ultralisks immune to mind control?
No, they're not.
Have to double check that.
You can mind control. No, they are not. You can mind control them.
Interesting. Lurkers and Broodlords are good targets. Yeah, Lurkers are actually okay targets depending on the map, but yeah. Overseers again provide Vorazun free detector. Yay, detection!
This week's mutation, you can spam the mind control, the the aberrations that come this week. This week only.
Yeah. Aberrations are not exactly great. Mind control is so much energy, man, and then they cost supply. That's actually the bigger problem with mind control, is that the units cost supply. And the thing is, any unit you mind control loses all upgrades. It doesn't keep the upgrades of the person you mind controlled it from. It loses all upgrades, which means that your mind controlled units are never going to be as supply efficient as the units you made, especially since you're taking 1v1 units when you could have been making co-op units. So actually,
True.
because they consume your supply, they're actively hurting you by being around. The only
Unless
reason you can really justify mind control is because it makes sure that capital ship is dead, and especially with battle cruisers, it's easier because you can just tactical jump them into the middle of the enemy base when you're done with them, so they die immediately and you free up the supply.
or when you're maxed out and you just want more. You want to have a 250 supply army.
Yeah, but then it's like you have to slowly try to accumulate them, and even then it's like you have a 250 supply army,
And the next fight, you're down to
200
200
supply
again.
army that was just Dark Templar and Corsairs probably would have been stronger anyways. So
Yeah, it's true.
yeah, it's really just realistically the only actual application of mind control is just to get rid of capital ships, because if you mind control them, then they are effectively killed instantly, which is
All right,
very nice.
moving on.
Yeah. And overseers cost negative supply. They give supply like a pylon, so yay.
Yay.
If you take to mind control the enemy, the player should be disable with the black hole or confuse first, as the enemy will tend to immediately turn their attention to destroying the brainwashed unit. Yes, if you mind control a unit in the middle of an army, it will just die immediately. Although, again, that might be in your best interests.
Battlecruiser's tactical jump, go!
The exact viability of mind control varies greatly depending on the map, the enemy's race, composition of the attack waves. There are a few opportunities to use mind control effectively against large waves of low-tier units, or on a map like Scythe of Amon or Dead of Night, where the primary enemies are not susceptible to mind control or have little value.
Oh yeah, very annoying.
Foreknowledge of the enemy's behavior in the early game is crucial to allow Vorazun to make a decision on how much time and research is to put into Dark Archons, if any. In regards to maps, mind control is most easily utilized on maps where spawning points and movement paths attack waves are easily predictable and accessible, so Vorazun may intercept them and mind control targets of opportunity without difficulty.
All right.
Yeah, if you want to spam mind control, that's the way to do it. It's a meme strategy. Just know it's a meme strategy, and you're doing it because it's funny, not because it's effective. However,
but yeah,
go ahead. It's funny and it's entertaining.
I think most Vorazun players who use Dark Archons are aware that Dark Templar are better, but Dark Archon mind control is fun.
Funny.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, we broke the voice lines. Unless these are voice lines for spam clicking on a unit that I don't know of. Always bet on Void. When using Vorazun, keep in mind that even if the enemy has detection, she grants cloaked units several other combat buffs with emergency recall and strike from the shadows and veil of shadows. Even in the heat of combat, a drop dark pylon can turn the tide of what otherwise would be a total loss, especially for allied commander.
Oh yeah.
Yes, giving them the cloak when they don't have cloak on any of their units is nice. When utilizing Corsair and Dark Templar as primary force, a lost battle will not result in any losses unless they have already been recalled in the last few minutes. Yay!
Right.
The enemy has discovered us.
Oracle.
Due to her heavy emphasis on stealth and special abilities, Vorazun requires a slightly different approach than her fellow commanders. Her Dark Templar need to be monitors unless they are in overwhelming numbers, and a small number will be left vulnerable to disruptors, banelings, and hybrid with their special ability when their special abilities are on cooldown. Yeah. I mean, the emergency recall is specifically for those units, arguably, but yeah. This should be taken into careful account during the mid-game when Vorazun's army isn't at full strength. Oracles possess a unique challenge of their own, as they are Vorazun's only mobile detector.
Yeah, and they like flying into the enemy fire.
Yes. Unlike the other Protoss commanders, Vorazun's oracles are fast and uncloaked. Not anymore. Now they're cloaked. They got buffed.
If you get the upgrade.
Oh, at least until upgrade with Stealth Drive.
Yeah.
They got buffed. Hooray!
Hooray!
For a player used to fielding observers, it's easy to lose track of oracles in the middle of battle and have them fly heedlessly into anti-air defenses that shred them, costing the player a fair amount of resources as he or she has to turn out more oracles for detection. On the bright side, at least her oracles aren't that expensive. I would also note the bigger problem, yes, they're fast. They're a lot faster than observers, and that's a problem. It makes them fly face first into death.
Yeah.
However, the bigger problem is that observers don't draw enemy aggro. The enemy will always prioritize shooting at a combat unit over an observer.
I did notice that, even in 1v1.
Yeah, always. However, It's because observers don't have an attack. And the problem is oracles, not only do they have an attack, but they have spells. And fun fact, Amon actually has a special AI to target fire spellcasters.
Like Ascendants. You're newly warped in Ascendants.
Yes, he will literally target fire spellcasters. So that means the oracles are fast, so they run in front of your army, and they have all the tags to tell Amon to tell all his units, forget shooting literally whatever you were shooting at, shoot the oracle instead.
Yeah.
And then we wonder why you have a hard time keeping your oracles alive. It's because the AI is literally out to get you. So that's the problem with Vorazun.
Also because we suck.
Also because we suck. You know what would be really great and make it so much easier? If Vorazun's oracles had revelation. I've said this so many times. I really want, that was like, if there was one thing I wanted to happen before they stopped doing changes to co-op, it was Vorazun's oracles getting revelation. It never happened, and I was immensely sad.
Super cloak.
Because if they had revelation, you would just
use that
click
spell.
revelation on the enemy army. It would all be decloaked now, and the oracle can just fly home and be fine, and the whole thing's detected. Or if the oracle does just fly face first in and die, it doesn't matter. It's all detected for the duration of revelation, even if the oracle dies. It's fine.
Plus, we can have that fun debate about that one guy on Reddit who said that it should be revealed, not revelated, like the casters say on GSL. But, you know, that's neither here nor there.
Yes. Anyways.
All right.
Anyways, yes, oracles die a lot. That's the summary.
Moving on. Synergies. Hey, you're finally at the longest portion of the video.
Yeah. Synergies, Protest Commanders. Artanis is an excellent teammate for Vorazun. I can agree with that.
Yeah.
While Artanis' pylon power is useful, Vorazun's Dark Pylon is functionally identical and provides more combat benefits. This can be used by having Artanis' pylon power used to summon both commanders' units on the battlefield, while Vorazun's Dark Pylon is for defense and utility, using the cloaking buffs and recalling Artanis' painfully slow ground army. It's not that slow when you compare it to a lot of other units. Compare it to, like, any of the Terran armies. It's faster than Marines. It's faster than Tychus. It's faster than, well, Nova's Marines as well. It's faster than, like, it's faster than a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff from Terran commanders is slow. People seem to forget how slow the Terran commanders really are.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Makes sense. But, you know, for Raynor, you usually have stimmed bio. Swan, you have rates.
Yeah, but your medics don't have stims, so your medics are still slower.
I guess that's
true.
And
also, your Marines have to stand still getting healed by medics to heal off all that stim damage. It's like, Raynor's army is actually, like, Raynor's army is way less mobile than Artanis. But Nova's army, too, if you're using her barracks units. Of course, for Nova, the solution is to just say, but why would I make barracks units when I can make starport units?
when I make not liberators.
That's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
That's neither here nor there.
For Arcturus, why make army? You have Earth Splitters.
True, but also his troopers just get to be faster for reasons. So that's cool.
Anyway.
For Tychus, you have Medivacs to make up for the fact that Tychus' outlaws actually walk very slow. I don't know if you noticed, but they're slow.
Well, they're slow for a reason. If they were any faster, then, like, what would the other player do?
Well, they just medevac into the enemy base anyways, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
All right.
This
can best be used while using it. Right. Painfully slow ground army. Artanis Guardian Shell and Vorazun's Emergency Recall go nice together. Yeah. Back in the day when both of those had a 1 minute cooldown, you just couldn't lose units. It wasn't a thing. They couldn't die. It was amazing.
It was incredible.
It was truly incredible.
And now is the time that we actually need that 1 minute cooldown on the Guardian Shell. Artanis would be much more incredible if he had that 1 minute cooldown back. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Well, the Guardian Shell will keep the unit alive longer than Emergency Recall, making sure if no cloaked unit will be lost, including Artanis units within Dark Pylon Field. Another thing is back then, both Emergency Recall and Guardian Shell would actually negate the last hit that triggered it instead of just setting the unit to 1 HP. So that meant, for example, if your units got hit by a disruptor, which immediately one-shot their entire health bar, Guardian Shell would trigger, preventing them from dying, and it would negate the disruptor shot, meaning that they would
still full health.
still be at, like, full health.
It's pretty neat.
So they'd pop out a Guardian Shell healthy.
One thing
And then
not
they
mentioned here
bug
is
fixed that in quotation marks, which I didn't like.
thank
But
you,
anyways,
Tangarcraft.
no. That was bug fixed when Monk first became
Oh, that was
lead
Mockler.
developer.
Oh, okay. Oh, my apologies, Tangarcraft.
Yeah, apologize to Tagor. Blame Monk.
Blame Monk. Well,
He's not here anymore, so we can blame him.
it was intentional. He wanted to sabotage co-op in favor of. Not true. Not true. I'm just kidding.
Nah, he just wanted to sabotage Artanis in particular. Man, he hated Artanis.
All right. One thing not mentioned here is that the Shield Overcharge is also really good at keeping your Oracle alive. Specifically, don't even care about
yes.
Vorazun's army. Don't even care about just the Oracle stays alive.
There's also the fact that both of them have very, very strong top bar ultimates. So, like, Time Stop and Solar Bombardment are both very strong. There's also the fact that Artanis has good anti-air, which is very useful for, Vorazun's complete lack of anti-air.
Yeah.
Artanis actually, ironically, it's kind of a thing of, for bulk moving of army, Dark Pylon helps with mobility, but also Artanis actually is more quote-unquote mobile for small things, because Artanis has his warp gate charges, so he could just summon a big blob of dudes big enough to actually deal with attack waves. Like, Artanis warping in a small army to deal with an attack wave is actually a thing.
Assuming you have a bank.
Single warp of Dark Templar is not going to do very much for you.
Really?
Well, it depends. It depends what you're fighting, but like a lot of time on most maps, the majority of attack waves are too much for a single warpin of Dark Templar to handle. They're just going to get killed. With Artanis, because of warp gate charges and also because of Storm, if you go for that, Storm is insanely good for wave clear. Right, Artanis is good for that. There's also just actually the Storm being insanely good for wave clear. Artanis generally actually both of them have very good wave clear, but Artanis generally actually has trouble actually pushing into bases.
Yeah.
But Vorazun, if you are using Shadow Fury manually, is extremely good at clearing bases without even needing top bar. And if you are using top bar, then you don't need to worry about using Shadow Fury manually. You can just time stop and clear out bases.
Yeah.
So yeah, Vorazun's very good at clearing to bases. Both of them have very strong wave clear. There's a bit of redundancy between them, right? Like, both have very good wave clear, both have pretty good anti-ground, but in general, they work really well together. They work really, really well together.
All right, moving on.
Karax is an excellent teammate for Vorazun. Karax's static defenses can be cloaked by Vorazun's Dark Pylons and hit harder when she is mastered. When she is mastered, yes. When she's at mastery level.
Yeah.
Yes. Vorazun. No, it's because of my immense skill at Vorazun that my Dark Pylons give you bonus damage, because I'm just that good at the game. Vorazun's Black Hole ability clumps units together for his Purifier Beam and Orbital Strike abilities, and its Chrono Wave ability accelerates the production speed of Vorazun's buildings, as she has many upgrades critical to her army success. She has 2.
That's Shadow Fury and Distracted Web.
Yeah. Well, I was more thinking like Shadow Fury and getting Blink for the Dark Templar is like the critical ones. The other stuff, like getting Cloak for Corsairs is like really good for anti-air later, but you can get that, like, you only need that in the mid game. Getting Blink and Regenerative Blink for Stalkers, if you're using those for anti-air, again, you only need that in mid game. It's only like the only ones that are timing critical early upgrades are Shadow Fury and Dark Templar Blink. After that, not really that timing sensitive, honestly. So, it's still useful. And hey, it means that you'll be able to get out your critical mass of Corsairs faster from a single Stargate. So,
all right,
yay!
Moving on.
Vorazun will perfectly patch up Karax's lack of combat ability using her overpowered army while being supported by a Spear of Adun and possibly Energizers.
Laughs in P2 Karax.
Laughs in P2 Karax. Laughs at just sending a single probe to just conjure cannon. I don't know, man. Cannons are good.
I guess
anyways,
they are.
But also, Energizers on Vorazun's army. That is a decision of all time. They're useful for her Corsairs, I guess. Her Dark Templar are spellcasters.
They can mind control mechanical units.
Correct.
Only.
Karax may even allow Vorazun to take 2 gases at his expansion, since his towers barely use up gases, allowing Vorazun to produce units at a non-stop rate accelerated even further by Karax's abilities. Yes, stealing gas is nice.
take up 100 gas each, so they're not that cheap. But I guess you can
Models
buy.
take up gas, yes. However, it depends it depends how many cannons you're using versus how many models you're doing. Technically, cannons are better DPS. The reason the models are so good is because, as it turns out, having 15
far.
range is really good.
Range
Range
is
good.
Insane. Yeah.
This just in, range is one of the best stats in an RTS game. Not damage, range.
It outranges the Dark Templar.
I feel like it's more like match, I think, actually.
Match?
It might be at range. I'd actually have to check that one. They're very similar.
All right.
I'd have to check who has more range.
We'll see.
Oh, I think Dark Templar are actually 14. I think it might outrange them. You might be right there.
There you
Anyways,
go.
If Karax expands fast enough, he may even be able to produce Purifier Colossi to answer Vorazun's almost complete lack of splash damage. Yes, we'll build another anti-ground unit so that we can become even more vulnerable to anything that flies. Yes! Upgraded Dark Archons can either offset energies, there's inability to control enemy biological units, or its only temporary ability to control mechanical units. But when Energizers mind control it doesn't take supply, does it? I think. Wait, I'm not sure. Do they take up supply? The timed life units from Energizer mind control?
Oh, yeah, they do. They do take up supply.
They do.
Yeah.
See, this is why mind control sucks. Mind control's awful. Anyways. I like how we just didn't even mention the whole black hole into orbital strike thing in this whole.
Yeah, I like to call
Karax
that.
And Vorazun go great together.
Right.
In reality, I don't think that Karax and Vorazun is like an amazing synergy. They're fine together. They have nothing. There's nothing bad about them together, but they're not exceptional. They're not an exceptional synergy by any stretch. I don't think.
I like the alley play.
Yeah. Anyways. Elarak is a questionable teammate for Vorazun. Yeah, Elarak is a quote-unquote questionable teammate for most people because he doesn't have any supporting abilities, so anyone who's like looking too hard at synergies is probably going to say, oh, Elarak! He doesn't go with anyone!
Plus, he's really snarky and stuff.
Yeah, he's very snarky and stuff. The reality is, Elarak actually is an okay teammate for Vorazun because Elarak has a similar thing to Artanis where he's not that good at pushing into bases, but his wave clear is so good. And Vorazun comes along and says, she's got good wave clear. It's not like Elarak wave clear or Artanis wave clear. Both of them are much better than Vorazun at wave clear. But Vorazun's wave clear is good enough. But her ability to push into bases is a lot better than Elarak and Artanis and Kara. Like, Vorazun is good at clearing bases.
Oh, yeah.
So that's good synergy for Elarak and Vorazun from that. Corsairs and Void Rays. Oh, we're back to Void Rays. Provide powerful anti-air support to supplement Elarak's ground-focused armies.
Void Rays are mechanical units, so they provide extra buff to empower me. Hey.
I actually think the extra buff to empower me is only for Elarak's mechanical units, not for allied units. I can't remember, but I can't remember for sure. But I'm like,
they still empower.
70% sure that only Elarak's mechanical units get the bonus, and everyone else just gets regular empower.
Oh well, someone in the comments,
which is kind of lame.
Someone in the comments pointed out. Maybe.
Anyways, but yeah, no, Elarak has the better anti-air here by a landslide. Elarak's actually helping by having good Elarak. So this comes from the fact that when Elarak was first announced by Blizzard themselves tried to advertise that Elarak was going to have weak anti-air compared to other commanders. He was going to be focused on anti-ground and use ground units to focus on that anti-ground. He didn't have a Stargate.
Yeah.
But the thing is, the only thing that Elarak has that doesn't shoot up is supplicants, which are not damage dealers. They're just meat shields. They do literally probe damage. And Vanguards, which...
Yeah, Vanguards too.
Havocs don't have an attack, but if you count their laser pointer as an attack, guess what? They shoot up.
It's true. It's true.
All right. Havocs actually can... Havocs can target air. Supplicants can't, but they are literally throwing ping pong balls. They do probe damage. And Vanguards can't target air, but Vanguards are, admittedly, probably his worst unit.
I mean, they are worse than the campaign version. They are worse than the campaign version.
Yeah, they are worse than the campaign version. They have very niche applications, but they're probably Elarak's worst unit, honestly. So if we look at his actually good units, which is his Stalkers, which shoot up, his Wrathwalkers, which shoot up, and his Ascendants, which shoot up, and then he has his hero unit, whose main way of damaging things is Destructive Wave, which shoots up. Elarak has arguably like one of the best anti-airs in all of co-op. I'd say he probably is it's between him and Zeratul for best anti-air of all the Protoss commanders. Alarak is amazing at anti-air, and I have no idea why Blizzard thought Alarak's going to have weak anti-air when they were making the announcement video.
Instead of Stargate.
How?
maybe they meant Alarak doesn't have anti-air, or rather, Alarak has weak air.
Yeah.
Not anti-air.
He doesn't have air, true, but he has great anti-air. Maybe they were thinking that because Protoss in 1v1 has terrible anti-air if they don't build a Stargate. But that's because Colossi don't shoot up. Wrathwalkers do.
Yeah.
So
Alarak doesn't have a nose.
Yeah.
That's why he has terrible air. Let's move on.
True. Anyways, continuing. In large offensive battles, Alarak Death Fleet can retrieve units saved by emergency recall. My guy, you are way too obsessed with getting emergency recalled units back into the fight instantly so they can immediately die with their 1 hit point. You need to stop. It's time to stop. Then teleport back to the front lines. Black Hole can position a large number of enemy high ground units to be decimated by Alarak's Vanguards. Why are we making Vanguards? Alarak's Havocs alleviate Vorazun's reliance on oracles for detection. That's true. Havocs are amazing detectors. That's another thing. Alarak's got good detection. He's got above average detection. So, like, Alarak actually, I would say, is a better synergy with Vorazun than Karax, which is kind of funny when you consider how we were like, oh, Karax is such a great synergy, but Karax is an amazing synergy, and Alarak is a questionable one. Reverse that, man. Like, Karax and Vorazun are fine together and all. Like, they don't have any anti-synergy, and it's like they're fine together. But Alarak's actually a good synergy for Vorazun. He has good detection. He has great anti-air. He has great wave clear to go with Vorazun's great base clearing.
Normally, I would question that, but it's 2 a.m. and I'm kind of too sleepy to question that. I mean, it's kind of unintuitive because Karax does have... Okay, like I said, normally I would question that, but I'm too sleepy, so just go ahead.
Okay, I can understand the whole thing of, but Karax has Black Hole into Orbital Strike. Yes, this is true. That is something that is gated behind Vorazun's Sphere of Adun energy, though. And to be fair, generally, most things that you Black Hole into Orbital Strike, you also could have killed with a single cast of Solar Lance, which would have only used Karax's energy, of which you have a ton, and not used any of Vorazun's energy, which is quite limited. It's fine, like Vorazun and Karax have synergy. There actually is synergy there. There's not no synergy, but it's not as good as Alarak Vorazun or Artanis Vorazun.
But have you seen Void Race with Energizer buff?
But Void Rays don't even get attack speed from Energizer buff because it's a beam attack. Blizzard can't code beam attacks for some reason. So Void Rays are actually immune to Energizer buff. You know what actually benefits them? Havoc buff giving them +2 range. If you're actually massing Void Rays, Alarak is still a vastly better teammate because +2 range on the already 9 range Void Rays makes them an 11 range unit.
That's the joke. Like, people don't get how comp numbers work. Anyway, I guess I'm too.
Oh my goodness!
All right, let's move on. We gotta finish this video before I have to go to work.
Okay. Phoenix and Vorazun share many weaknesses, but also add a lot to each other's strengths. A Phoenix Cyrus Arbiter can cloak its entire army, as well as the army of Vorazun not normally cloaked, granting both forces the base 15% attack bonus from Vorazun, as well as emergency recall. Yeah, it's really good, actually. Phoenix Disruptors can also benefit from Vorazun's cloak bonuses. Yes, he has permanently cloaked Disruptors. We don't know why. It's very random.
We're making Disruptors now. We're Phoenix.
I mean, yeah, making Disruptors. I mean, Disruptors were a fine unit to add in if you were against a hard ground comp and you were in the pre-Prestige era where we didn't have Caldelis to just show up and say, I can kill an entire army with
we still have the Dragoon suit, but alright, let's continue.
I mean, whatever. This is doubly powerful for Phoenix as his forces take a while to build. No, they don't. He's got great macro speed. Anyways, Vorazun's Dark Pylons are great to allow for mobility, and Black Hole and Time Stop are invaluable for giving both forces time to wipe out waves. This is especially powerful Phoenix Colossi and area effect heroes like Mojo or Teldarin, which are arguably the worst 2 champions that Phoenix has, but that's okay. Well,
this is definitely written before Prestige patch because
Mojo's fine.
Phoenix makes a lot of use fast because he has that discount on second prestige, and
P0. I'm just thinking with P0 Phoenix here, man.
yeah,
Phoenix's army builds reasonably quickly. Although to be fair, Phoenix got like 5 patches in a row of buffs after he got released, because when Phoenix was released, he was released as the weakest commander in the entire history of co-op. He was so bad on release. So they buffed the snot out of him, and one of the biggest things they buffed is allowing him to just spam out units super fast by making it so that his buildings now cost half as many minerals, making like they halved the cost of the majority of his upgrades.
do you know how else? Do you know how else they buffed Phoenix?
How else?
They released Hot and Horner.
No, Han and Hoarder have never been nearly as weak as Phoenix was on release at any point. Like, holy smokes, Phoenix was bad on release. It was hilarious. His Praetor armor had the armored tag, so it would die instantly to immortals.
It's pretty funny, though.
His champions were all weaker, and getting their AI was more expensive for all of them. Almost all of his unit upgrades cost twice as much. His buildings didn't get the discount. Yes, Vorazun's Dark Pylons also allow for great mobility. Phoenix had no problems with that. Black Hole and Tie Stop are valuable for giving both forces time to wipe out waves. Waves? Waves? No, I mean, okay, you can use it for waves, but I mean, okay, Phoenix and Vorazun both are actually really good at pushing into bases, so Phoenix plus Vorazun is actually a team where you might want to use Time Stop on waves because you don't have an insane wave clear commander with you. But in general, you want to be using Time Stop as a pushing top bar,
not a defending
a wave
top bar.
Clear top
That's
bar.
true. You want to use Black Hole if
Black
ever.
Hole for wave clear. Yeah, you have Black Hole for wave clear. You have Dragoon Arsenal Overcharge for wave clear. Like, I'm not sure you want to be using Time Stop for wave clear in a lot of cases.
All right.
Although, there's maps, right? Anyways. This is especially powerful with Phoenix Colossi and area of effect heroes like Mojo Teleran. Phoenix early heroes can help defend against early waves, saving Vorazun energy for more important targets, or just like make Keldalus. But this was probably written before people realized that Keldalus was actually insanely good. I was saying that since before the Prestige patch, because by the way, he was since before the Prestige patch, but no one seemed to believe me. Anyways. The issue the two have is they both have expensive armies that take a while to become powerful.
Definitely before Prestige patch.
Yeah, I mean, even P0 Phoenix without Prestige, like P0 Phoenix, his army is not that expensive, except that this is probably, if this was written back when Phoenix had to just mass carriers because it was the only thing he had that was actually usable, then yes, expensive armies is right. You can only have carriers, then there's a problem. And if destroyed, take a relatively long time to rebuild. Again, yep, carriers. In addition, they both lack early and mid-game anti-air. Oh, here I was assuming we were just making carriers, but now apparently we lack anti-air with mass carrier.
Oh boy.
I don't know, man. I don't understand.
By the way,
in all reality,
nowadays,
if we just look at nowadays, P2 Phoenix, the main weakness of P2 Phoenix versus P0 Phoenix is that P2 Phoenix has terrible anti-air. So it actually has poor synergy with Vorazun, because if you have Phoenix plus Vorazun, your anti-air does not exist. You just don't have anti-air. It's a huge problem, and you will suffer immensely. There's a lot of redundancy between the both of them, because they both have really good pushing, and like they're both pretty well matched for how good they are at pushing in bases and clearing waves. They both aren't amazing at clearing waves, so if you're on like Temple of the Past, which is like all wave clear, then you're actually going to have a little bit of complication. There's redundancy with the cloaking between Arbiter and Dark Pylon, but that's there's redundancy with Dark Pylon recall and Arbiter recall.
Not mentioned here is Zeratul. This was written before apparently Zeratul was released. So, how do Vorazun and Zeratul synergize?
So, Zeratul,
and more importantly,
so Vorazun has her passive that says cloaked units regenerate shields 5 times as fast. Zeratul regenerates shields in combat. It is hard to lose your Zeratul if you have a Vorazun ally. And that's like, when I say lose, I mean get him to be emergency recalled, not actually die. Don't be silly. He's not actually dying. He's just getting emergency recalled after he manages to run out of hit points with the bonus shield regeneration from Vorazun. Zeratul is insanely tanky with that.
By the way, there was a recent patch. There was a recent patch that fixed the the attack speed buff for Zeratul when he's cloaked with the Vorazun ally. So he's now even
attack
better.
damage, yes.
Attack damage, yeah.
Yes, he's better. Yeah, he also gets bonus damage on his attack damage. Oh my goodness. Zeratul already has great DPS. His Dark Templar, one of their biggest weaknesses was like it really made you appreciate Vorazun's shield regen on cloaked units, because Zeratul's Dark Templar, they have a ton of shields. They have so many shields. They have 320 shields each. The problem is, if you don't have a Vorazun ally, that literally takes minutes of out of combat time to regenerate that back.
Yikes.
Or you have a Vorazun ally and it just comes back. So the effective durability of his Dark Templar is increased massively because basically Vorazun ends up functioning as his medic, and he's his medic with a global aura that hits all his Dark Templar simultaneously. It's great, and Dark Templar are already one of Zeratul's greatest units. Now, here's the thing. Zeratul and Vorazun have a bit of redundancy in their insanely good anti-ground if they're both massing Dark Templar, but the thing is, Zeratul isn't limited to only good anti-ground. He gets to choose between massing Dark Templar for absurdly good anti-ground and poor anti-air, or he can hybridize the armies together, but the units don't actually have great synergy with each other. He can mass Immortals, and now Zeratul has, like, when I said that Alarak was one of the best anti-air for Protoss, it's like between him and Zeratul, yeah. Zeratul's Immortals are amazing anti-air.
Incredible.
So what you can do is you just mass a bunch of Immortals, so you have insane anti-air. Vorazun gets the mass Dark Templar, so you have great anti-ground. Or if the enemy is a ground comp, you could just both mass Dark Templar, and everything on the ground just dies instantaneously. It's ridiculous.
You know what else is Zeratul's anti-air? The Demote Dude.
The Demote Dude is the Demote Dude, yes. But also waving his arm in a circle. Like Zeratul just blinks into an airwave, spins, and everything's dead. It's ridiculous. Zeratul's hero unit is insanely powerful, and again, we just made him like practically indestructible because we have a Vorazun ally, so he's regenerating shields at 5 times the rate, and he has bonus attack damage. It's like, yeah, Zeratul plus Vorazun is really insane, but ironically, it's really insane because Vorazun becomes an amazing support for the Zeratul, and the Zeratul runs off and carries the game, while Vorazun is just like, I'm helping! Yeah. And it doesn't help. It's made even worse. Like, that whole situation is made even worse by the fact that Zeratul already is a much stronger commander than Vorazun at baseline. So the fact that Zeratul gets a ton of value from being a Vorazun, and then Vorazun gets like absolutely nothing from having a Zeratul ally, it just turns Vorazun into an overglorified support, watching as Zeratul just wins everything and just walks over Brutal +6 like it was like a routine, and it's just like, oh, what? I'm sorry, this was supposed to be hard?
Which nicely loops back into the question I was originally supposed to ask. Is Vorazun really Zeratul's boss, or is Zeratul more of Vorazun's boss?
I mean, hypothetically, Vorazun's Zeratul's boss, but he just doesn't listen anymore. He just said, nah, I'm going to win by myself.
Vorazun is Zeratul's nominal boss.
Yeah.
Alright, let's move on. Terran Commanders, Raynor.
Raynor is a questionable teammate for Vorazun. What? What do you mean? We can make Marines have emergency recall. That has to be good, right? Okay. So, Raynor with Vorazun. Obviously, the bug with invulnerable Banshees has been fixed.
Yep.
And that bug wasn't there when this was written anyways. This was written before that bug existed.
Yeah.
Medics can heal weakened Dark Templar that are saved by emergency recall. Although, as it mentions here, Dark Templar are 80% shields.
Yes.
So that's not that big a deal. Even more so given how Vorazun skips ground armor due to the same reason. Yeah, she gets shield upgrades, not armor upgrades for your ground units, unless you really want to have like double forge, but realistically, nah. However, Raynor's scan ability is great for making up for Vorazun's ineffective detectors. Yeah, but this means that we both have terrible detection in the early game.
270 minerals. Ouch. Painful.
Yeah. It's a lot. Once you have a bunch of orbitals, then you don't really care anymore.
I guess.
But early on, yeah, both of them have terrible detection early on, and later on, Raynor doesn't want. Well, the other problem is that the Raynor player doesn't want to have to be like watching his army and watching Vorazun's army, so he knows, oh, I need to scan for Vorazun. You don't want to have like the Vorazun having to spam ping the Raynor like, scan. Like, it's a mess. So It's pretty. They both have poor detection basically.
basically. And they're
Yeah.
both army
Dark
based,
Pylon.
so they will hurt on mutations that favor hero based commanders.
Yeah. Dark Pylon's slight damage boost will even more empower Rainer's bionic army. Bionic army, not biological army. Bionic army.
What's the difference between
Letting them.
biological and bionic anyway?
Bionic is like I believe bionic
Moving on.
genetically created superpowers, like Superman, the Hulk.
All right.
Bionic army.
Well,
this just in: Rainer uses genetic engineering to make his Marines stronger.
Maybe he does. That's why they only take 5 damage per stem. Anyway, move on.
Letting them quickly burn through enemy forces. However, increased use of detectors due to Vorazun may be troubling to Rainer due to Raven's Seeker missiles and Viper's parasitic bomb, causing massacre in Rainer's highly concentrated infantry.
Highly concentrated.
That seems very random to bring up that here, but yes, he does lose a lot of units, so he wants a lot of mules, so he doesn't want to be burning money on scan. This is true. The real strength to a Rainer pairing is taking a pair of gases from your ally, as Rainer is generally mineral heavy. No, he can print more minerals. He needs the gas. Well, it depends on his strategy. So in reality, yeah, Rainer and Vorazun is a weak synergy if you are in disorganized play. If you are in organized play, they are good for one reason. Because Vorazun is very good at sniping objectives, and Rainer is very good at building a wall of bunkers and tanks. Literally, you don't make a mass bio army if you want to take full advantage. You don't make a mass biological army if you want to take full advantage of the Vorazun Rainer synergy. What you do is Rainer becomes a defensive character, building bunkers, building turrets, building siege tanks. You clear every attack wave. You clear literally, you keep the base completely safe from everything. And all Vorazun has to care about is snipe the objective. I don't care about anything else. Just get the objective.
So waiting for a time stop.
At that point, they have good synergy, especially since the Hyperion and Duskwing can really help with the sniping objectives, and can also be like easily the Hyperion can be used to snipe objectives and jump home to help defending. It's like super right. They're very good synergy for that specifically, but basically they have bad synergy unless you're in like very much organized play.
That's what's questionable.
You need a coordinated team.
That's what's questionable.
For them to have good team. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, they're bad synergy unless you're a coordinated team, in which case they're great synergy. Yep. All right,
moving on. For Swan, we kind of already know what will be here, but let's see it anyway.
Swan is amazing. He gives gas. Don't you love gas? Guys, it's gas.
Yeah, you do.
His best made harvesters greatly boost Vorazun's income. Vorazun's has income. Not gas income. Has income. And allow her to afford her expensive units and upgrades earlier and easier. And in science, that's the SCVs can repair her mechanical units, save from emergency recall. Hooray! That actually is useful because Corsairs actually have a bunch of health, unlike Dark Templar. In return, Dark Pylon's Cloak, Swan, Static Defense, and Emergency Recall can save his more expensive units so they can be repaired. Also useful. And the Dark Pylon Recall can be used to quickly move Swan's units around the map, since his units are rather slow without Hercules dropships. Yeah, fair enough. Okay, so Swan is weird in terms of how he's actually played for himself. If he's just acting as a support to Vorazun, giving her gas, Vorazun is super happy. If Swan actually wants to contribute, how you actually build your army as Swan will change a lot into how you actually contribute. Yeah. Swan has really good wave clear, especially since the prestige patch. If you use the P1 laser troll, it is insane. Like Swan basically has like Swan is like some like arguably like it's not it depending on how you define it, it's the best wave clear in co-op because it's not like it's the fast wave clear, like the most like it'll wipe out an entire army, but it's the cheapest wave clear because it literally is just your laser drill exists. It's the most low effort yet effective against most purposes wave clear in the game. So that's great. Vorazun can focus on clearing bases. If you do end up using objective sniping strategy, Swan can again do a Rainer impersonation, but better because of his turrets and better. He's got all these strong turrets and he's got tanks that are not actually better. They're actually weaker than Rainer's tanks, but he has tanks. But he's got better ability to assist Vorazun with objective sniping too, if it's a map where like the hard part is sniping the objective, not defending the base. Then Wraiths are great. Wraiths are Swan's best unit, and Wraiths are cloaked units, so they really like Vorazun. So yeah, and their best asset of Wraiths is their ability to obliterate map objectives by just flying in and sniping them. So Swan and Vorazun can have very good synergy.
Yeah.
But again, like Vorazun with honestly most of the Terran commanders, their synergy scales hard with how coordinated your team is.
And Vorazun's has income.
Has income, yeah!
Moving on.
Nova. Nova is apparently a perfect match for Vorazun. I don't know about that, but okay.
Me neither.
With her Strike from the Shadows passive boosting Nova's damage and that of her Ghosts, Banshees, and any unit cloaked by her healing drones.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Her most important units, her Ghosts and the Banshees.
Her Ghost, not only that, but it doesn't apply to spells. It only applies to basic attacks. So yes, the basic attacks of her Ghosts. That's what we're playing Nova for. Yeah. Black Hole can set up Nova airstrikes. I mean, yeah, but do you need a black hole? It's an airstrike. It's a huge area. You can hit the whole wave just fine.
Maybe for the sabotage drone. It will be used for this sabotage drone, maybe.
Yeah, except if you're good at if you figure out how to actually time the sabotage drone, you can just place it in the path of the army and it'll destroy the entire army anyways. You don't need a black hole. But anyways, emergency recall will save any of her costly units from death if they happen to be being healed by ravens at that particular moment. And, let's be real, your best defensive tool is defensive drone, which isn't great for Vorazun's army, because guess what? Vorazun's army likes to be mobile and kiting a lot. You know what defensive drones aren't great for? Kiting a lot, because they don't move. In return, Nova can heal Vorazun's units with her ravens and provide better ground-to-air damage than Vorazun's stalkers are capable of doing. Actually, no! Nova's also really bad at anti-air, just like Vorazun. Like, her Goliaths are only single target, so they're not great. Her Marines are literally way worse than Raynor's Marines. Like, it's quite dramatic.
Just airstrikes, like a normal person.
Her airstrikes are okay anti-air, but, like, that's not her... Like, basically... The anti-air of Vorazun, or of Nova, is her airstrikes, which is a lot worse than her anti-ground. And you're going to run out of minerals if you're having to use an airstrike for every little thing. And her airstrike, I don't think it even one-shots battlecruisers. I thought it was 500 damage. So it's like...
You can use Nova Snipe to finish them off.
Yeah, but like, if it's an attack wave of Sky Terror, there's going to be 12 battlecruisers. Like... I would say Vorazun and Nova is actually a pretty weak synergy. They're actually quite bad together because they both have the anti-air weakness. Nova actually doesn't have great use for any of Vorazun's buff auras, which is not great. Vorazun doesn't have great use for Nova's supporting stuff like her airlift and her defense drones. Defense drone synergy is like one of the biggest things you want to look for if you're looking for good teammates with Nova. You want to look for defense drone synergy because defense drone is amazing.
Chrono Boost on the starport!
Chrono Boost on the starport is, that used to be a really good thing, and then P1 Nova came out, and now you literally can max out on starport units comfortably.
Yeah.
You're gas limited, not Chrono Boost limited, not like charge limited. So it's like, like what little synergy they had kind of died with the Prestige patch. So Nova and Vorazun are actually like a weak synergy. They are not a good pairing at all. Although, ironically, most people who have good synergy with Vorazun also have good synergy with Nova because of how much they overlap in what they can do.
All right.
You can use Nova in place of Vorazun in most synergies, and you can use Vorazun in place of Nova in a lot of synergies.
All right, let's
but
move
they don't
on.
have good synergy with each other.
Let's move on. We gotta finish before 3 a.m., please.
Okay. Hunter Porter and Vorazun have some synergy. Permanently cloaked Asteria Wraiths are powerful on their own, but they benefit from stealth bonuses, getting increased damage and emergency recall. Additionally, strike fighters can snipe detectors in the fog of war.
No, that's strike fighters. Strike fighters.
Strike fighters.
Strike fighters.
Strike fighters can snipe detectors in the fog of war. A darn shame that half the detectors are flying. Anyways, potentially allowing enemy position to be cleaned up with a relatively small force of cloaked units. Horror can also go heavily anti-air to help Vorazun counter capital ships like battlecruisers, while Vorazun's black hole can tie up targets for mag mines hitting their mark. I mean, yeah, true. The black hole thing on mag mines is true. Black hole can also line up attack waves to be instantly destroyed by Han's space station reallocation. Okay. Space station reallocation is too big of an area to need a black hole for it. It's a huge area. You're fine. You don't need a black hole.
Plus, it's instant.
Han
You don't need a black hole for it. It's instant.
Yeah.
Just click the thing.
Han and Horner have decent anti-air. This is true. So they can help Vorazun there. They have decent anti-air. They do not have great base defense. Like, they can't defend a base, like, at all. Their wave clear is largely limited to mag mines and against some compositions widow mines, but other than that, Han and Horner have pretty poor wave clear. Like, Han and Horner are actually pretty just generally, like, the problem with Han and Horner is that they're just generally weak and they want to rely on like being cute and sniping objectives and whatnot. They have good anti-ground wave clear with strike fighters, actually, so it's not entirely true that they have poor wave clear. They have good wave clear if it's a ground comp. But I'm, kind of thinking of air stuff because the reality is, even against ground comps where strike fighters are like the ideal wave clear, hypothetically, they actually at best only match Dark Templar. So you're not really, helping your Vorazun ally out there. Or you are, you clear some waves, they clear some other waves.
Yeah.
But either way, Han and Horner and Vorazun, there's not really any real major synergy here. Han and Horner can provide anti-air.
Han and Horner can provide salvage if Vorazun loses a bunch of units.
Han and Horner provides salvage. Salvage is great for literally everyone in the game, pretty much. There's only a few people who can't really make use of salvage, like Nova, and it's mostly Nova. Zeratul a little bit as well. Nova and Zeratul don't really love salvage that much, but most people really like salvage, and Vorazun is one of them. She does actually lose units, believe it or not. They're just each doing their own thing, kind of, and just at least Han and Horner can cover the anti-air, and Vorazun can cover the base defensive advanced wall cloak cannons. So like, they can fight together. They're fine.
All right.
They're fine. They're just fine.
So it's accurate. Some synergy. There we go. Moving on.
Yeah.
Zerg. Oh, wait. Not included here are Tychus and Arcturus. So how about Tychus?
All right, Tychus. Tychus' dudes get cloaked by the medevac. Hooray. They lose that cloak as soon as they take or deal damage, though. Take damage. They can deal damage without losing the cloak. So that's useful, but for Tychus,
anti-air.
Same thing as Han and Horner, really. Tychus has Tychus has solid anti-air. It's not like exceptional anti-air, but he's got good anti-air. Like, Sirius is good anti-air and all that, but like, it's all single targets. The best anti-air is Tychus' grenade, which if you're not P2, then it's not going to one-shot waves. Doesn't get buffed by the cloak bonus because only auto attacks do. It's a lot like the Han and Horner Vorazun thing. They're just each doing their own thing. They can work together. They can do things to cover each other's weaknesses, but they're not like, automatically covering each other's weaknesses or anything. Or they're not exceptional together. They're fine together. Yeah. They're just fine.
How about Arcturus?
Arcturus. He actually is in a spot where it depends on what Arcturus ends up going for. If he's going for ESOs, they both have weak anti-air, so that can get a bit awkward. But Arcturus can defend the base really well. The problem is basically Vorazun's greatest strengths. A lot of them end up covering things that Arcturus is like, but I already have that part covered. Vorazun's great at sniping objectives, but I have ESOs. Vorazun is great with anti-ground, but I have ESOs. Vorazun can give you good crowd control, but I have contaminated strike. It's basically like everything Vorazun gives, but ESOs could already do that. Now, if you are on a map where it's not ideal to use ESOs, ironically, that's where their synergy more comes in, because then Mengsk is going to be using his stuff that actually synergizes with Vorazun, his army. His army has great synergy with Vorazun. It's just the fact that on maps where ESOs are called for, ESOs do the same, like cover everything that Vorazun could do, and it's like, well, you could make your army. You could, but in general, on like specifically like on Rifts to Core Hall and Oblivion Express and whatnot, you'd literally be better massing ESOs and having an AFK ally than massing army and having a Vorazun ally, because ESOs just break certain maps because the maps just weren't designed with ESOs in mind, basically. So they have okay synergy. It's kind of map dependent. It's kind of mutator dependent. It's a lot of situational synergy. They can be pretty good together because Manx does have good anti-air.
All right.
And he does like time stop because of his high DPS army, which, by the way, is something about Raynor that I didn't mention. Technically speaking, time stop plus Raynor Marines equals very good, because Raynor's army is like, Raynor's army is top notch, exceptional DPS. So he loves time stop for that reason, and he also does have Vikings, which give him some of the best anti-air. If you're like the best dedicated anti-air in the game, some of the best dedicated anti-air in the game in terms of Raynor's Vikings.
Ripwave Vikings.
That also helps. That also helps synergize with Vorazun. But yeah, it's ironic how it's like, how does Raynor synergize with Vorazun? By not playing standard Raynor.
There we go.
But that's the case with a lot of Raynor stuff, honestly. If you really look at Raynor, a lot of his synergies are like, he has great synergy with this commander if he actually plays to the commander.
Yeah. Which, you see, though, you can do if you're Raynor. Moving on.
Yeah.
Zerg Commanders.
There's a reason why Raynor actually is remarkably usable if you have like good and well-coordinated players, and then feels so
like
bad
Lila.
if you are just randos.
Yeah.
Like, if people know what they're doing. Raynor... Kerrigan is a questionable teammate for Vorazun. But why? She has lurkers. Like, seriously, lurkers are a really good unit. Anyways, it is best for Kerrigan to focus on dedicated anti-air with Hydralisks. Right, if there's the anti-air problem. Right, I'm forgetting. This would have been written before the Prestige patch, back when Kerrigan had just nothing for anti-air.
Just nothing.
Nowadays, P2 exists. And with P2, your anti-air woes have gone away because Kerrigan can just solo everything. It's amazing.
Yeah.
We also have buffed Mutalists since then, so they're good anti-air if you really want. But your best anti-air is still Hydras. Which, the thing is, you have Hydras. If you're making Hydras for anti-air, you can easily add on Lurkers because you already have Hydras. So you can make a couple of Lurkers, and Lurkers are incredibly good base defense. And all Lurkers actually end up being quite good against things that Vorazun normally is bad at defending against, which is mostly infested, admittedly. But like, basically base defense against like constant trickles of stuff. Anytime you have to defend against a lot of things in rapid succession, if it's just discrete attack waves, Vorazun is great at dealing with that because you just Shadow Fury, it's all dead, and you're good. But if there's going to be more things before Shadow Fury comes back off cooldown, now you have a problem. So Lurkers are amazing for the situations like that where you're having to defend against like Voidress mutators or just like Outbreak mutator, any kind of mutator that sends trickles of dudes, right? Reanimators, Voidress, whatever. They're great for base defense against mutators. They're great for base defense against infested. So like, on both of the infested maps, Lurkers are great. And these are all things that Vorazun is actually quite bad at defending against because she's bad at defending against trickles.
She just defends using a cloak wall.
Yeah, she usually just resorts to using a cloak wall. Well, guess what? Cloak wall plus lurkers is great synergy because lurkers have insanely large amounts of range.
Oh yeah.
And
12
lurkers
range.
are using their auto attacks and they're burrowed. So you don't even need a dark pylon for them to get the bonus damage and emergency recall because they're burrowed. It's great. So, there's that. Kerrigan has fine anti-air nowadays. So like the anti-air problem isn't as bad. But if you get an enemy air comp, you are going to kind of suffer because Vorazun's anti-air is terrible and Kerrigan's anti-air is, mid. And that's only if you're using a prestige that has good anti-air. If you're using P0 or P1, oh boy, now you got a problem. You're terrible at anti-air. That's like Vorazun. So then you got bad teammates. So basically, I can see the questionable teammate thing. Before the prestige patch, this would be dead on. Their anti-air is terrible. Oh, I forgot to even read what they were talking about. Like, oh, yeah, it's best for Kerrigan to focus on dedicated anti-air. Yep. Well, Vorazun dedicates an air force composed of Void Rays. I mean, if you're against an air comp, I can see it, I guess. You're both building anti-air. Because they both had terrible anti-air, as we established. So I guess if they're both trying to desperately shoot up... nowadays, your best anti-air composition is Corsair Oracle. You just make, like, a 2-to-1 ratio of Corsairs to Oracles, and you have strong anti-air as Vorazun. Or if you really, really want to be crazy anti-air Vorazun, you could actually even go, that's like an excuse to go Centurions, you can go Corsair Zealot, because the Zealots don't consume gas aside from their initial upgrades.
All the gas
And
goes
then
Corsairs.
your anti-ground is going to be like at its absolute weakest as a Vorazun if you're going Corsair Zealot. But you're going to be able to make so many Corsairs. Your anti-air is going to be so good. So incredibly good anti-air, because you're going to have like all these Corsairs, and then they're going to die to one AoE spell. It's going to be sad.
All right.
Anyways, but yeah. It's going to be so good compared to what you're used to, at least. It's still going to be worse than actually good anti-air commanders, though. So it's basically a thing of, if you really want to dedicate to anti-air, is what I'm saying.
All right.
You go Corsair Zealot. That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
As I'm going all over the place with what I'm saying. All right. Increased usage of hostile detectors renders Kerrigan's lurkers useless and her creep spread much harder. Your creep spread is based on worms, which are visible. And your lurkers do not need to be invisible to be useful.
Yeah.
Healing benefit of creep is redundant for the same reason as Rainer's medics. I mean, it's nice to have those hit points, but more importantly, the attack speed is also nice. If your Dark Templar ever end up having to do that. Or the Dark Pylons make Kerrigan's Nidus channel redundant. Other way around.
Yeah.
Other way around. The
More like
Nidus
the other way
makes the
around.
Dark Pylon redundant. But either way.
Also,
yeah, I can see the concerns in their synergy. It's not ideal.
Not mentioned here, Kerrigan turns enemies into money, which helps Vorazun overcome the gas thing. So, there you go. All right, moving on.
Zagara is an excellent teammate for Vorazun. It is best for Zagara to focus on dedicated anti-air corruptors and scourges. I mean, I guess so. While Vorazun dedicates ground forces Dark Templar, and no, don't bother Centurions. Make Dark Templar cannon. You will be fine. Just make Dark Templar cannon. This allows it to focus on only one tech tree and gives them the advantage of increased numbers, which coupled with the sheer efficiency of the units allows for quick and effective destruction of the enemies. Yeah, I can agree with the idea that, like, Vorazun says, don't worry, I will kill all the ground units. Just make Scourge and we'll be fine.
That makes sense.
True. It works. It's a good synergy. You do have to kind of, be depending on each other for that. But if you actually are willing to trust each other for that, it's pretty good. For Zagara literally chooses to allocate her money between anti-ground and anti-air. So if she's allowed to just choose to allocate all of her money to anti-air,
pretty good.
Yeah, she's got pretty good anti-air at that point. Again, I can see Zagara and Vorazun as good synergy.
Just don't eat a parasitic bomb to the face or fight against Corsairs, because Corsairs will make Scourge very sad.
The ideal way to use Scourge as Zagara is, one, you want to send like enough Scourge to kill the army, but not more, because if you send more, all it's going to happen is you're going to lose more, but the result is going to be the same. The enemy army is dead. And two, don't like clump up your Scourge so that they all die to Corsairs and parasitic bomb. Just like move them from a long distance so they all stay scattered. And even better, if you want to micro a little bit, you take a big blob of Scourge that are spread out fully, like how they naturally spread out. Yeah. You move command to them past the enemy army, so they stay spread out. And then once your big carpet of Scourge is over top the enemy air army, then you attack them. So at no point do they ever clump up. They just fly over top of the enemy army, and then poof, it's gone.
All right, that makes a lot of sense. Okay.
So, micro.
But I have to disagree with this synergy because biolaunchers were not mentioned, so sorry, that's the rules. Didn't make them. Just kidding.
Not the biolaunchers.
Let's move on. Oh yeah, biolaunchers and black hole. There we go. B&B. There we go.
True. Anyways,
Abathur.
Abathur is an excellent teammate for Vorazun. His lack of fast and effective killing can be replaced by Vorazun's strong army, and Abathur's army will take the heat with their increased health and size. Abathur is tanky, and Vorazun is high damage. This is true. As for anti-air units, Vorazun's Corsairs may not do well against highly armored units like battlecruisers, but Abathur's Devourers are the perfect counter for multiple high-armored enemies due to their strong one-hit damage. Not only that, but Devourers actually have an armor shred, so now Corsairs can deal damage. Hooray!
Yeah.
Well, Abathur's big-sized roaches may be very disturbing for other commanders.
Disturbing.
I think what he means is disruptive with how chunky they are and
disturbing.
Body
disturbing. Do you see how a lot of roaches look? Like, one roach is disturbing on its own. He's in a whole army of roaches. That's very disturbing. Yeah, I agree. Very disturbing.
That's true. That's true. It is very disturbing. Anyway, Vorazun, Dark Templar can blink to the front line easily. Why do you want them in front? Do you know how much range Shadow Fury has? You want to be standing behind the roaches. Anyways, Vorazun's spare minerals can be used on Centurions for Abathur's Vipers to consume. Can you consume your allies' units? I don't think you can. I'm pretty sure you can only consume your units. Regardless, well, Abathur's healing can repair Vorazun's Corsairs as well. Hooray!
It's true.
Yes.
Regarding the consume, once you have biomass in your Vipers, you don't need a lot of consume after that.
Not only that, but you already have the ideal consume target lying around in large quantities. It's called an Overlord. You need a ton of them anyways. And Abathur's Viper consume, fun fact, doesn't kill the unit. It just takes a bit of health from it. So you just take a few bites of your Overlords and you're good. You need those Overlords anyway for supply.
All right. Let's move on. Yeah, I think they pretty much covered everything.
All right. Well, let's speed run this, yeah. Stuka and Vorazun both suffer from similar weaknesses. No, they don't. Their slow ability to start and a lack of powerful early anti-air. No, Stukov has fine anti-air. He's actually got good anti-air, especially if you actually, Okay, to be fair, when this was written, that was probably before they buffed Stukov's Liberators. They used to suck. Now they're insanely good. So nowadays, Stukov has great anti-air. But both become powerhouses in the late game. Sort of on Stukov. Stukov's scaling is not a defining feature, let's just say. He does have okay scaling, but it's not a defining feature. But hey, it could be worse. He could have a defining feature of bad scaling, looking at, the trio of Artanis, Zagara, and Raynor for no scaling. Holy smokes, they just drop so hard. In the late game, they drop off so hard, all three of them. Oh man, they do not scale. Anyways, Stukov players going for more mineral-heavy infested Marines builds may want to consider giving their expansion geysers to the Vorazun ally. You can, although you probably do better to take those gases and build Liberators, because Liberators are good now, unlike when this was written, as it will allow them to produce their forces faster, while Stukov will rely heavier on minerals. Both forces have very powerful cooldowns. Oh yeah, they both have very strong top bar. Black Hole and Time Stop can break defenses. No, you use Black Hole for wave clear, not defenses. Defenses are too spread out for the Black Hole. It's not that big a radius. While Stukov's cooldowns can provide fire support for Vorazun's forces, Stukov's cooldowns can solo clear entire map objectives, especially if you synchronize them, because the two top bars have incredibly good synergy with each other. So you could just solo entire objectives with just your top bar as Stukov.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But anyways, Stukov also has greater defensive options with his mobile infested bunkers and infest structure ability. Yep, that's true.
Yeah.
The infest structure is a very good defensive tool.
You can play the Raider job, but better, because infested sea shacks have greater range. So there you go.
Yes. Infest structure is a very good defensive tool too. In addition, their air superiority fighters, infested liberators, and corsairs complement each other by specializing against heavy air units and swarm of light units, respectively. No, the liberators do not actually specialize against heavy units, do they? Do they have bonus against armor? I don't know. Honestly, though, Stukov Liberators, especially if they have a bigger AoE than the Corsairs anyways, Stukov Liberators specialize in obliterating literally anything that dares fly in the presence of Stukov. That's their specialization. Any fool who dares be an air unit in the presence of Stukov will be punished swiftly. Punished swiftly for their arrogance.
All right.
Anyways, so yeah, Liberators are amazing. Yes, they both have very strong cooldowns. They actually do have excellent synergy. For defensive, like wave clear and defensive purposes alike, Stukov's got great defenses with infrastructure. He can make tanks. He can use bunkers as a defensive line, but in reality, the biggest, it depends if you're using P3 or if you're using P1, right?
Yeah.
With P1, Diamondbacks with their slime trail is also great wave clear. Stukov generally just has very good wave clear. He usually has to use his top bar to supplement weak base pushing, but Vorazun's great at base pushing, and especially with them having time stop and Stukov's top bar to alternate between, you could just clear pretty much every base on the map for free. No problem, no questions asked, it's easy. And yeah, Stukov's incredibly good anti-air for Vorazun's incredibly good anti-ground. They have great synergy. They have excellent synergy. They do not suffer from similar weaknesses, nonsense, silliness. They are incredibly good synergy.
All right, moving on. Dahaka.
Dahaka and Vorazun can cover each other's weaknesses well. Can they? And make a powerful late game Ari. Vorazun struggles against some early attack waves, while Dahaka benefits from having to deal with them, as it will give him early essence. You get the essence regardless. You get the essence as long as the wave dies. But okay, yes, having a hero at 1 minute is nice for Vorazun to be able to just say, hey, look, Dahaka's got the early game. He started with a hero unit at 1 minute into the game.
You just take up.
If Dahaka takes care of early attack waves, Vorazun could save her energy for a push or emergency situation. Yay! In the late game, Dahaka's ability to tie up and slow enemies works well for Vorazun's disruptive webs. Tie up and slow enemies. What does Dahaka do to tie up and slow enemies?
The yelly thing.
I guess the yell thing, yeah. Preventing enemies from moving out of them. Yeah, okay. Dahaka's ability to snipe big targets with Devour makes a Shadow Strike and Dark Templar means large attack can be destroyed easily.
Oh, don't devour big targets. You want to devour psionic units so you can use a magic fart. If you devour big targets, that'll reset his cooldown to 60 seconds. That's terrible.
Yeah, I know. It's so bad.
Oh.
However, Dahaka's mutants are great anti-air, so everything's fine,
Oh
basically.
yeah, everything's fine.
Dahaka's call-downs at worst can provide damage detection. Yes, Dahaka can cast spontaneous detection with worms, so that's helpful. However, both of them suffer from terrible early-game detection.
Yeah.
So if you're against, like, We Move Unseen Mutator, oh boy, this is a terrible pairing.
Well, until Dahaka gets level 4, in which case Dahaka just carries.
I thought it was like level 5 even. I thought it was higher than level 4 when you got detection. But either way, the point is, whenever Dahaka finally gets detection, then yeah, he helps. But even then, it's only where Dahaka's hero unit is. So if anything happens anywhere else on the map,
Greater Primal Worm!
Yeah, yeah, you have to Greater Primal Worm, basically, yeah. Time Stop allows Dahaka to deep tunnel into treasure positions and cause havoc before the enemy unfreezes. No, Dahaka's damage output is not incredibly high. However, you can use it to deep tunnel in and drop in pack leaders, I guess. So yeah, pack leaders. There's not really any particular synergy in Time Stop. Also worth noting is that level 15 damage boost granted to Impalers. What? Yes, Impalers? Okay. This feels like just grabbing at random things here, this whole description. The reality is, they don't have anti-synergy. They don't have super strong synergy. They're fine together. Dahaka has good anti-air. This general trend of Vorazun. Her anti-air is terrible, so anyone with good anti-air, she'll be happy about it. But for the most part, Dahaka and Vorazun are both kind of just doing their own thing alongside each other, and it's just meh.
Or more like Vorazun trying to keep up with Dahaka. Unless it's one of those few things
that depends. That depends. Dahaka is a stronger commander than Vorazun, it's true.
Yeah.
But not like Vorazun's actually fast about getting things done as long as she doesn't have to deal with air units.
Yeah.
And Vorazun does kind of like come online earlier than Dahaka in a sense. Like Dahaka has a better early game, but Vorazun like comes into her like strong phase of like having like scaled earlier than Dahaka does. You know what I mean?
Packers are really good though.
Pack leaders are really good, but you will find, like, if you have a good Vorazun and a good Dahaka, those Dark Templar are going to be able to get a lot of work done. They're going to be able to work fast. Yes. And then eventually Dahaka's going to get to the point where he's, like, outscaled Vorazun in a sense. So, well, outscaled Vorazun, quotation marks, but, like, there's also the time stop thing with Shadow Guard. So actually, Vorazun, Dahaka used to outscale Vorazun before the Prestige patch. Now that time stop gives a bunch of Shadow Guards.
All right. Oh yeah, I guess the supreme late game.
Either way, they're doing their own thing. They're doing their own thing. They're playing alongside each other. There's no massive synergy between them.
Okay, I guess. Not mentioned here is Stat Boy. Yeah, there's no Stat Boy here. So,
yep.
Stat Boy allows Vorazun to play in Black Death. So there you go.
Yay! Yeah, we love Green Zone. We love Green Zone. Just never turn off Green Zone ever. Yeah. Other than that,
Infestors get energy faster if they're in the Dark Pylon.
Or burrowed.
Burrowed.
But it only affects. No, wait, that's a lie. It only affects their base energy regeneration rate, which is 0.
Oh, that's kind of lame. Oh wow.
So yeah, kind of lame. Statman Vorazun, aside from Statman curing Black Death, with Green Zone. Other than that, not really any massive synergy between them. They just
Yeah.
kind of exist together. They both work together. Stepman has good anti-air. Like their synergy kind of just ends at Stepman has really good anti-air.
Yeah.
Yep.
Stepman is a
There you
really
go.
strong anchor. The
Yeah.
Super Gary thing, pretty good.
Super Gary is a strong anchor.
Mm. Uh,
Yeah.
the zone, pretty good. I guess Vorazun can also let.
Stepman's wave clear is kind of limited by Egorb cooldown a bit, so like Vorazun being able to clear waves with Shadow Fury helps. Yeah,
Yeah.
they have like some synergy, you know? It's a sub synergy kind of deal.
Like a mid-level synergy. All right, guys,
Mid
that's
level
gonna be it.
synergy.
I
Yeah.
gotta go to bed. Watch Six Minutes channel. I will link down below. See you guys next time. All right.